Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics Heavens. Elm the Magical Lender. Chapter 81. The pages behind that diary were torn off, and I don't know the story behind it. Elena removed the story eunuch without hesitation, leaving it to a few people to imagine. Daisy. In short, Gal Wen used the identity of the hostess to guide the phenomenon that appeared in this town to the mystery. After getting this information, Phil Coulson and the others began to investigate. They wanted to know if there were really vampires in this mysterious town. The direction of the investigation is also simple. It is said that vampires die in the light of the light. As long as you investigate who does not go out during the day in the town, you should be able to easily find out the results. It took 3 days for the investigation by Phil Coulson and others to say that they found nothing, but they did not find much valuable information. I didn't find a vampire, but I learned a lot about the town's history, as well as the founding family. The founding family is not a single family, it is an association composed of many families, which has survived to this day, including but not limited to the Gilbert family, the Lockwood family, the Salvatore family, the Young family of God, the Forbes family. Wait. These families are not old. After all, the country under their feet does not have a long history, but these families have a history of more than 200 years in this town. From the family history of each family and the records of the family's internal books, we can see about records of vampires. Interestingly, the ancestors of the Creation family, each believed in the existence of vampires and werewolves. But now, their descendants are skeptical. Phil Coulson, Daisy, and Melinda meet at a fast food restaurant, summarizing the information they have investigated while having lunch. Phil Coulson and Melinda's investigation doesn't make much progress, but Daisy finds new information. I went to meet Tyler Lockwood, the eldest son of the Lockwood family, and when he saw that I was interested in his family history, he took me to his library. Found an old notebook with some useful information from it, which records the bodies of members of the Lockwood family. The blood of a werewolf flows. Werewolf is a curse, and this curse needs a condition to activate, and before the curse is triggered, the people of the Lockwood family are only human, not werewolves. Daisy said she investigated. What curse? What is the triggering condition? Phil Coulson asked. The curse of the werewolf is related to a legend of the Bane skeleton. About 1,500 years ago, Columbus had not yet discovered the American continent. In North America at that time, that is, the land under our feet, there were 2 ancient tribes. They have humans and necromancers. Through marriage, the 2 tribes gave birth to a baby. The baby's name was Anadu, and it was also called Bane by later generations. Calamity has been evil from birth, and has created many brutal massacres. In the end, the 2 tribes had no choice but to join forces with many necromancers to capture her, and finally the real mother of Bane gave her a fatal blow. Before he died, the calamity cursed everyone in the 2 tribes. Anyone who had killed the same kind would turn into a brutal werewolf on a full moon night. The werewolf was also born. Anadu's mother was the first werewolf in history, because she killed her own child and started the curse. However, it is impossible for the calamity to be killed. Its 4 bones remain, and there is a tendency for the bones to converge with each other. Once approached, the calamity will be resurrected again. The 4 bones are kept by the 4 families in the 2 tribes, one of which is the Lockwood family BFFA, in this town, and they also keep the bone, which is in the basement of the Lockwood family. Quote. So, that thing is item. Melinda May said that she believed that such a dangerous thing should be brought back and sealed, rather than left in the hands of these ordinary people. Although the Lockwood family is a werewolf family, judging from the fact that this family does not believe in supernatural power, it is not difficult that no one in their family has triggered the werewolf curse in their blood. We are no longer SHIELD agents, and the name Roar for those mysterious items should be changed. Phil Coulson finished, and asked Daisy, where are the other 3 families? There is no record. Regardless of whether the legend of the calamity is true or not, we should all take the calamity bone from the Lockwood family back. As long as the 4 bones cannot meet, even if the calamity's story is true, it doesn't matter. Phil Coulson made a decision. Leave this task to me. I've already gotten to know Tyler Lockwood, and in the afternoon, I'll visit his house again in the name of a visit, said Daisy Johnson. That evening, Daisy came to a hotel to reconcile with Phil Coulson and Melinda. She raised her hand, shook a wooden box in her hand, and said, "It's done." Phil Coulson and Melinda came over, opened the lid of the wooden box, and saw the human bones inside. On this bone, there are many runes of unknown meaning. Do you think it really has supernatural powers? Do you need a DNA test? Even if you want to test, you should go to an occult expert. Not long ago, I contacted Wanda Maximov and learned that she is a magician, so I asked her to come and have a look. Phil Coulson took out his mobile phone as he spoke, dialed Wanda's number. Phil Coulson finished the phone call, and within 2 minutes, in the hotel suite where the three of them were, a portal with red and gold sparks appeared out of thin air. Wanda, dressed in casual clothes, walked out of it. Where is the thing you're talking about? Wanda nodded to the three of them, beckoning Roar, and immediately asked straight to the point. Phil Coulson pointed to the wooden box on the table. Wanda walked over and saw the bone of Calamity in the wooden box. She picked it up and observed it carefully. Immediately, she whimpered softly. What did you find? Phil Coulson asked. This thing is fake. Wait, everything here is fake. Wanda first discovered that the bone wasn't real. Then, she discovered that everything here is unreal. With the ability of alter reality, she is an expert in reality and will find this to be normal. What you said is false, is it, that everything here is not true? Phil Coulson, Melinda and Daisy couldn't help thinking of what they heard from Elena Gilbert 3 days ago. Not really. But when I heard Wanda say the same, I had to pay attention. It's just such a big town, there are so many townspeople living in it, everything can be seen and touched. But if all this is false, it's really unbelievable. Several people really can't imagine what kind of existence can do such a thing. It's very simple to verify this. Wanda raised her hand and snapped her fingers. The crimson chaos energy exploded from her hand, spreading in all directions. Wherever chaos energy passes, all obstacles are broken. The town they were in disappeared out of thin air, and was replaced by a dense forest. The environment here has changed, but the people who were in the town before have not disappeared. Horrifying things, those townspeople turned to Phil Coulson and his party in unison, with a pair of glasses staring straight at them. The change in reality is very shocking to Phil Coulson and others. And those townspeople who looked at them at the same time made them horrified. Melinda May immediately pulled out the pistol around her waist and became alert. Phil Coulson and Daisy also quickly realized that there might be danger, and immediately took precautions. Compared to the nervous 3 people who seemed to have seen a ghost, Wanda's expression was a little more exciting, because she discovered the truth. A townsman who was relatively close to them walked in front of a few people, put on a slightly helpless expression, and said, "In order not to be disturbed by troubles, I went to a remote place to practice alone. I didn't expect to be disturbed by you when I ran so far." At the same time as the passerby was talking, more townsmen around them floated over like ghosts, and they were one by one integrated into the body of the passerby who was talking before, under the vigilance of Phil Coulson and others like an enemy. During this process, the appearance of passers-by gradually changed and returned to the original appearance of Gao Wen. Seeing Gao Wen, Phil Coulson, Melinda, and Daisy, I was stunned. "Boss, why are you?" Daisy shocked Roar. "As you can see, it's me." Gao Wen spread his hands. "What happened to that town before?" Phil Coulson couldn't believe it. What happened before was actually created by Gao Wen. "The town was imagined by me." "What about those people?" "I played it." Gao Wen didn't hide it, he was his own person anyway, so there was no need to hide it. "So, those people we have been in contact with these days are actually you." Melinda May felt that she was being tricked and was very upset. "I didn't invite you here, you came here by yourself." Gao Wen shrugged. When Phil Coulson and others thought about it, it seemed that this was the case. Speaking of which, a town suddenly appeared here, and it was discovered by Daisy Johnson. A non-existent network channel suddenly appeared in the world, and a monitoring software alarm written by Daisy himself would naturally be sent. As soon as the alarm goes off, Daisy will use the computer to confirm, and then discover the mysterious waterfall town that shouldn't exist. "Boss, you just said that you were practicing. If you don't mind, can you tell me what kind of magic you were practicing?" Daisy approached Gao Wen and asked with interest. As soon as she came over, she was pushed away by Wanda. Wanda took Gao Wen's arm and looked at Daisy with the look of, "He's my boyfriend and you can't steal it." "Daisy," She didn't want to rob Wanda's boyfriend, she just wanted to know more about Gao Wen, the boss. Gao Wen, the boss, is too mysterious in the eyes of their SHIELD team. Although he is their new boss, if it is too mysterious, it will make their subordinates feel unsure. Gao Wen answered Daisy's question half-truths. It's okay to tell you, what I practice is, thousands of people, thousands of faces. In layman's terms, it means that 1,000 people have 1,000 faces, and they have different looks, different genders, different personalities, different memories, and different communication skills. Circles, these people come together to form a social structure, like the town of Mystic Falls that you have seen before. Someone has a story, and the story that was staged before was called The Vampire Diaries. It's a pity that the story didn't reach the finale of the romance, and it was interrupted by you. Quote. Gao Wen said, and shook his head slightly regretfully. Phil Coulson, Melinda, Daisy. The other party said it was practice, but how did they hear the other party's bad taste? You just want to involve us in your script. This so-called 1,000 people and 1,000 faces is a little scary when you think about it. What kind of precision does a person need to be able to control so many duplications to do different things at the same time without interfering with each other? Although the Mystic Falls is really not big, after their investigation a few days ago, they also know that there are at least 30,000 people there. A large population. 0 if everyone in those populations is Gao Wen, that would be 2. The Aegis trio realized that Gao Wen's ability is a bit exaggerated, with at least 30,000 duplications, and these duplications look no different from ordinary people, just ask if you are afraid. Imagine if Gao Wen didn't choose to entertain himself in this place where birds don't shit, but released 1,000 people and 1,000 faces, in a city like New York, and even these 1,000 people and 1,000 faces, duplication could be transformed into what anyone looks like, just can't imagine. Even if he ignores the power behind Gao Wen, he definitely has the ability to subvert the world. Just the ability of thousands of people, thousands of faces, is already out of the category of people, not to mention that they are not sure whether the other party has other abilities. In other words, is he really a person? Gao Wen didn't use mind-reading skills on a few people, so I don't know how many people have drawn him out of the human circle, but even if he did, he wouldn't care. Okay, about Mystic Falls, you already know the truth, I want to continue my practice, you are free. The three of Phil Coulson left with a tangled mood, and the embodiment town that was destroyed by Wanda before reappeared. Can I stay here? Wanda said expectantly. Definitely yes. You can also experience the script of The Vampire Diaries that I arranged here. I want to know the plot, Wanda said. It's boring to spoil it, but I can tell you the basics of this script first. Hurry up and say it. In this story, there are supernatural purgatory, hell, vampires, werewolves, necromancers, witches, sirens, the ancestor family of vampires, the legendary calamity, immortal medicine. Gao Wen said first about the script something that exists, and then goes on to say, the story is happening in this town, it's just that the story hasn't unfolded yet. Wanda expressed her expectation, and she also loves to play. Time passed, and 10 months passed in a blink of an eye. A lot of things happened during this time. 310, the Fantastic Four was born, and there are several more Super Black Widow agents in the Black Widow Agent Department who have mastered the super ability. They are all based on the information provided by Gao Wen, mixed into the trip to outer space of the Fantastic Four, so as to obtain the super ability with the Fantastic Four. Their ability is pretty good, which makes many other Black Widow agents who didn't participate in that, gaining advantage, quest envy and jealous. And Gao Wen, who experienced 1,000 people and 1,000 faces, in Virginia, was discovered by Emma, Lorna, Gwen and others, and they simply moved to this town to live, euphemistically called it to accompany her boyfriend. Live for 10 months. Lorna. He's not my boyfriend. One more thing, on Kamar Taj's side, Caecilius betrayed, the Ancient One magician died, and she passed the Sorcerer Supreme to Guinevere before her death. Guinevere is the strongest magician in Kamar Taj except Ancient One, and her prestige is very high. She is still very convincing to inherit the position of Sorcerer Supreme. To be honest, Gao Wen never thought that his own followers could become Sorcerer Supreme in Kamar Taj. Does this mean that his magic lending business will be better developed in the future? It is also true that on the first day Guinevere became the Sorcerer Supreme, She received Gao Wen's oracle, she obeyed the domain of the gods and wrote a magic book with the source pointing to Gao Wen. The book was widely praised by the Khmer Taj magicians as soon as it was published. In addition, Guinevere took the time gem from Eye of Agamotto and sent it to Gao Wen. Gao Wen studied the time gem for 2 days, and then returned the infinite gems. The reason, of course, is that the compatibility is incompatible, so I can't use it. Time has come to 2017. According to the movie plot, the story of Thor 3, Ragnarok, will take place this year. But the world isn't just the Marvel movie universe, it's more of a Marvel hodgepodge. Last year, the Fantastic Four was born. And this year, I am afraid that Tunmei's father will come to Earth. During this time, Sister Tun mentioned that Aunt Xingqian was looking for her in the universe. If she didn't hide it well, Xingqian would have found the Earth long ago. Gao Wen has an intuition that it is not far from Uncle Tun's arrival on Earth, and this may even happen before Ragnarok. At that time, not only the Silver Glider and Uncle Tun will come to Earth, but the stars will also come. On this day, the town of Mystic Falls, just like when it suddenly appeared, suddenly disappeared again, as if it had never existed. The reason for the removal of the town of representation is not because Gao Wen has achieved great success, but because the story of the Vampire Diaries can bring him little insight, and the efficiency of perception begins to decline. He needs to condense a new sub-fiction world. Or the sword goes one way or the other with another method. From the insights of the past 10 months, Gao Wen has an in-depth understanding of the way of the power of the gods. He found that the Tao in it was not the original one, but the Tao of imagination and reality. And who can do better than Scarlet Witch when it comes to manipulating fantasy and reality? Coincidentally, Gao Wen has a Wanda number 2. It seems that occupying the body of Wanda number 2 makes it easier to realize the rule that belongs to him. At least it will be more efficient than the experience of thousands of people and thousands of faces in urban areas. The Gao Wen family, from a fake town, has returned to their pocket home space. As soon as he got home, Gao Wen couldn't wait to let his body blur merge into the body of Wanda number 2 in the dormant cabin and control Wanda number 2 in a stance of Gundam. Perhaps, in the next few months or years, there will be no Gao Wen, there will be only Wanda number 2. Only by fully devoting yourself to the performance can it be better used for perception. Although Wanda number 2 is still alive, people's souls are just sleeping, not going to hell, they may recover at any time. But number 2 hasn't cheated the corpse yet, and I'll talk about it and when the corpse is cheated. Everyone in the family knows that Gao Wen wants to comprehend the Tao, but everyone's attitude towards Gao Wen's possession of Wanda number 2 is very subtle, especially Wanda No. 1. What should I do if my boyfriend becomes my peer? Wait online, I'm in a hurry. Occupying Wanda number 2, he became her temporarily. She was going to travel to another world to get used to the state of being Wanda, before going to other worlds, not in front of acquaintances, otherwise she would be as thick-skinned as she is, embarrassed. Under the strange eyes of the girls, someone said something that he was going to go out to experience. Everyone wanted to go too, but someone refused. She opened the door of surprise in front of everyone. I thought that it would take a few more attempts to make the door of surprise connect to other planes, but who knew that it would be successful once? The controlled Wanda number 2 walked into it with a pretense of calmness. Emma was the first to hold back, and, pissed, burst out laughing. Immediately afterwards, the others also laughed. Only Wanda number 1 didn't laugh. Her mood was a little subtle, thinking in her heart, wouldn't Gao Wen use her own body to do some weird things? Because Wanda number 2 controlled by someone was eager to get rid of the embarrassment, so after confirming that the door was the other world, he walked directly into it, and didn't even have time to take a closer look at the situation of the other world. It was not until she came here that she realized that this new world was not the same as the time flow in the previous place. The flow of time is faster here. She calculated it and easily came to the conclusion that in a 15th month in this world, only one day will pass on Marvel's side. After confirming the time ratio, she made up her mind, and only then did she develop her perception and observe the world carefully. After a few seconds, her eyes lit up. It turned out to be here. She used origin magic power to distort reality, shortened the concept of distance, and vanished in place like an inch in size. The next second, her figure appeared in a Gothic-style modern city. The city has a familiar name, it's Gotham. There is a well-known man in the city, he is Batman. That's right, Wanda number 2 controlled by Gao Wen has traveled to the DC superhero world. She stood on the hill not far from Wayne Manor, overlooking the manor. She didn't have any idea about Batman, she just came to take a look and see with her own eyes whether this Gotham is Gotham. At the same time, she is also thinking about a problem. Since he can change the reality, why maintain the image of Wanda number 2? With this idea, reality changes. The appearance of Wanda number 2 began to change, temporarily becoming Gao Wen himself. Although this body is essentially the body of Wanda number 2, as long as Gao Wen doesn't say it, who can know? Hey, this way, there will be no psychological barriers. He looked down at his new body and nodded in satisfaction. Since the purpose of borrowing Wanda number 2's body is to perceive illusion and reality, then when he came to the 600th world, he did not intend to keep a low profile. He has an idea, and I don't know if it can be realized with origin magic power. In a few steps, Gao Wen left Gotham and found a no man's land in the suburbs. In this unoccupied place, he raised his hands, held them in front of him, and activated origin magic power. Reality and probability are changing. However, the change was not great, only in his hand, a bead of the size of an adult's fist appeared out of thin air. It looks a bit like a night pearl, but it's not that simple. This is a magic weapon, which was born after alter reality. Its birth is based on Gao Wen's own possibility. It's of high grade and originally complicated. In fact, it is basically impossible for Gao Wen to refine this kind of magic weapon, but after alter reality, it can make the impossible possible. The process of collecting materials and refining to get the finished product directly, this is alter reality. But there is a premise to use origin magic power alter reality to obtain this magic weapon, that is, Gao Wen himself may refine this magic weapon, even if the probability is only 0.5% of the success rate. Conversely, if Gao Wen doesn't know how to refine weapons, then the probability of success is 0%, and naturally he will not be able to obtain this magic weapon. That's how origin magic power is used cheaply, reasonably. There are low-cost ways to use, and naturally there are also high-cost ways. If the reality is unreasonable, but you have to force origin magic power, the chaos magic power consumed will increase exponentially. Gao Wen does not have Wanda's mind gem pendant. If he uses too much chaos magic, he will inevitably not wake up the big ghost from the chaos magic. The use of origin magic power just now made Gao Wen feel that the soul of the body's original owner, Wanda number 2, has been infected by a big ghost on the original basis. Once this impregnation exceeds a certain limit, the great shadow Sichorn will revive on this body in a way similar to borrowing the dead. Gao Wen, who noticed this, decided to help Wanda know. 2. After all, the two currently live in the same body, which is considered a cohabitation relationship. He doesn't want to suddenly find that his cohabitant suddenly becomes a big devil. Gao Wen tried to use his the God's telekinesis to help Wanda number 2's soul resist the further impregnation of the great ghost, but the part that had been impregnated was not easy to handle. No matter how to purify it, it might hurt Wanda. Soul of number 2. It can only maintain a good or bad situation. Gao Wen drew his attention back to the magic weapon in his hand. This magic weapon is the main god space from Gao Wen's cottage. It is not as magical as described in the Infinite Stream novel, but has some similar functions. Gao Wen plans to use this copycat space to recruit some well-known heroes or villains in the 600th world, let them become reincarnators, and then find a place in the universe where people will not be disturbed, combining alter reality with the way the secondary fiction world descends, to create a solar system between the real and the unreal, and use the third planetary script story in its as a world where the reincarnators are going to perform their tasks. To be honest, creating a fixed star system out of thin air, even if it is a fixed star system between the real and the illusory, is definitely a big deal. If it wasn't for someone with unlimited energy, I wouldn't dare to play like this. Since it is a big deal, there will definitely be big rewards. When he played thousands of people, thousands of faces in the Marvel world before, he only came up with a small town, which lasted only 10 months, and then he learned something. If you make a whole fixed star system and play all the humans on the third planet at the same time, you will realize that the efficiency of the rule will definitely be higher. In order to realize the rule that belongs to him alone, he can be regarded as giving up. His eyes stared straight at the main God space like a night pearl in his hand. It has the basis of existence, so it does not need additional energy to maintain, and it can exist forever and ever. As for the principle of existence, the principle is that Gao Wen made it, but using origin magic power to omit the process of collecting and refining materials, and amplifying the refining power of only a trace of it to 100% successful refining, so Gao Wen got it. And it has also become something that exists objectively. Even though it is so small, the actual interior space is huge. Not long ago, there was a big event in the DC universe that caused the mystery to subside. The god Necromancer, the old Shazam, and the god of order, Naboo, in the helmet of destiny, they gathered many genius necromancers, went to hell collectively, and joined forces with the demon army of hell and the angel army of heaven to deal with the awakening giant beast. What is a giant beast? If the supreme god represents the light of the DC universe, then the beasts represent the darkness of the DC universe. But for Gao Wen, the two are different trumpets of the same person. The monstrous beast possesses half of the power of the almighty universe, and when he recovers, he is ignorant. Facing the attack of the human necromancer, heaven, and hell-allied forces, he just looks at this group of little ants curiously. From the small ants in the three major coalition forces, he learned various emotions such as anger, hatred, disgust, and greed. Although the tyrannical beast didn't really make a move, it was just standing there motionless through the sky, and there were angel demons all around. Later, the giant beast became impatient, and threatened to conquer hell, then heaven, and finally destroy the world. In the end, there was no other way. The hell Satan Lucifer had to follow his father's arrangement, and was very aggrieved to integrate the giant beast, so that this disaster could be eliminated. This battle made many people unhappy. The demons are not happy, because the demons below the Earl level are dying, the high-level demons have no demons to use, and many big demons have become bear commanders. Angel was unhappy, because Angel hadn't even shot, just looking at the giant beast with his eyes, he was hit by darkness, causing Angel and the Angel Legion to lose tens of millions. Michael, the boss of heaven, is not happy, because too many of his subordinates have died. The hell boss Lucifer is not happy, because he is a rebel, he doesn't want to be arranged by his father, but after the appearance of the beast, he has to follow his father's arrangement to integrate with the beast to become the dark side of the universe, otherwise everything in this multi-universe will be destroyed by the beast. However, Lucifer is not an obedient and good son. When his father asked him to praise the Holy Son of mankind, he refused to obey and forced him loudly, so in front of all angels, he was slapped on the ground by the old father of the supreme god. Feeling ashamed, newer degenerates. It was only later that I found out that it was my father's arrangement. Lucifer baby was bitter and aggrieved. Now, he was successfully arranged by his father again, and he began to think about how to get rid of the identity of Satan, quit his job, and go to the world to live happily. Ahem, the topic is a bit far off. All in all, after the giant beast incident, the power of the mysterious side has declined greatly. Shazam's old necromancer returned to the Eternal Rock and looked like he was dying at first glance. He would probably consider choosing a Shazam heir. The God King of Order has once again become the Helmet of Destiny, and is also waiting for a new heir. The Hell Satan Lucifer is pondering how to quit. Hell demons are also out of 10. The power of heaven is particularly weak. And those geniuses among the human necromancers also died a lot, such as Zatanna's father Giovanni. The above-mentioned major event does not seem to have much impact on the human beings living in the mortal world, but in fact it is a signal that the mysterious fading technology is in power. It's a pity that when Gao Wen came to this world, the beast incident was over, otherwise he would be fortunate enough to witness the supreme power of the 600th world, and he would gain insight even if he didn't get any benefits. It's been a week since Gao Wen came to 600th world. During this week, Gao Wen found John Constantine in Country Y, and the above information was learned from Constantine's mouth. Currently, Gao Wen is temporarily living in London, Country Y. Until this day, Gao Wen felt that everything was almost ready. When he was going to recruit reincarnators, the door of the hotel room was knocked. Gao Wen, the god's telekinesis swept out and found that it was John Constantine, who was covered in blood and was dying of serious injuries. Gao Wen waved the door, turned into psychokinesis with the god's telekinesis, moved the other party to the living room, and laid it flat on the ground. "What's wrong with you?" Gao Wen was surprised. "Yes, someone cursed me. Hurry, take me out of London, or I will die," Constantine said, and the man passed out. Gao Wen didn't expect that the other party would come to him for help, and he obviously only had a few encounters with him. Could it be that Constantine has swindled all his friends and found that there is no one to cheat, so he can only come to himself? Gao Wen checked Constantine's body and found that he was cursed. This curse effect, translated into human language as, "John Constantine, get out of London." As long as Constantine is in London, a curse will be triggered, causing him to continue to weaken and eventually die. If there is no way to break the curse, Constantine will never be able to stay in London. Gao Wen sneered and said that he was worthy of being a good character. Zha Kong, this is the rhythm of being kicked out of his hometown. Seeing that he wouldn't be dead for a while, Gao Wen was in no hurry to take him away. Since he came to me to ask for help, I should choose him as my first reincarnator, and use him to look inside my main god space to see if there are any loopholes. Constantine would definitely do this, because he's a necromancer who likes to drill holes. Just do it when he thinks of it. Gao Wen waved Zha Kong into his main god space. After an unknown time, Zha Kong woke up. The first time he woke up, he got up and touched his body to confirm that he was still alive and not going to hell, and he was relieved. It seems that Gao Wen is a very reliable guy. He really took him out of London. Well, it's decided that if you encounter trouble in the future, you can ask him for more help. With this in mind, Zha Kong began to observe the surrounding environment, and was immediately surprised to find that this place was very unusual. It seemed to be a strange and different dimension. This is a circular square with a diameter of 100 meters. Above the center of the square, there is a golden light ball floating 3 meters above the ground, and its light illuminates all directions. Outside the square it was pitch black and there was nothing. No doubt, it's good enough weird here. Zha Kong spent a little time, swaying around here for several times, until when he came under the central light ball, his consciousness involuntarily established a connection with the light ball. The ball of light sent a lot of information to his mind, letting him know where this place is. Main god space. Do tasks to get reward points. Can the reward points be exchanged for various magical knowledge at the Lord God? Zha Kong frowned thoughtfully. He was thinking, who created this so-called main god space? Angel or devil, or the old god group? He couldn't figure it out for a while, but Zha Kong is Zha Kong, and Xiao Cheng is definitely the protagonist of Destiny. Based on the principle of investigating the place to get benefits, he decided to stay and become a samsara. Zha Kong believed that with his own wisdom, sooner or later, he would be able to decipher the magic of the main god dimension, and then the main god dimension would be his own. Please select a task. A majestic voice sounded in the main god space. Hearing it in Zha Kang's ears, made him feel smart. Zha Kong stared fiercely at the ball of light floating in the air. The sound from this ball of light is poisonous. It penetrates the human heart. It is comparable to a blow to the head. It is the sound of heaven. Then, 3 optional tasks appeared in Zha Kang's mind. 1. Go to Resident Evil to kill zombies. 2. Go to Underworld to kill vampires and werewolves. 3. Go to Terminator to kill robots. The 3 stories mentioned in the mission have related movies in the 600th world. During this week in DC, Gao Wen recorded these films into his supernatural powers and the will of all beings, and gathered the popularity of 3 of them, successfully condensing the secondary film world. Zha Kong had obviously seen these movies. He said in surprise, "Can you send me into the movie world? Could it be the power of the 5th 310th dimension? I heard that in the eyes of people in the 5th dimensional world, the real world is the story in their eyes. They know everything about us." The Lord God did not answer Zha Kang's question. Speaking of which, the necromancers in the 600th world are much better than scientists in the study of dimensions, and the major gods in the realm of the gods are said to be located in the 5th dimension. The place where the apocalypse and new creation stars of the new god race are located also seems to have a unique dimension. The 6th dimension is more exaggerated. It is the domain of the creator god Perpetua, monitors and anti-monitors, but Perpetua has long been sealed outside the origin wall, and beyond the origin wall is the omnipotent universe. The function of this wall is to prevent those nosy guys in the omnipotent universe from interfering with the DC multi-universe. In the current period of time when the origin wall has not been broken, it is also a period when the DC BFFA multi-universe is closed to entertain itself. Whoops, off topic again. Zakong, who didn't get a reply from the Lord God, rolled his eyes, took out a cigarette, lit it, and said, "I choose the second one." At the same time, Gao Wen appeared out of thin air in an extremely remote area of the universe. Here he unleashes two powers, origin magic power, and the sub-movie world descends. Within a light year in front of him, a fixed star and several planets slowly emerged from nothing. From a macro perspective, this suddenly appeared fixed star system is no different from the solar system. But from the third planet, the difference can be found. This third planet of the solar system, manifested by Gao Wen, is different from the third planet of the solar system with the Orion arm Gould of the Milky Way. To maintain the manifestation of an entire fixed star system, it will output a huge amount of energy every minute and every second. If Gao Wen didn't have the origin magic power bonus, this feat would not have been possible with original alone. The reason is very simple. For example, if energy is compared to water and Gao Wen is compared to a faucet, then the file size of the water flow depends on the file size of the faucet. Even if there is an infinite amount of water, if the faucet is not big enough, the output in the same unit of time will not be large. But with the blessing of origin magic power, it is different. As long as alter reality strengthens the faucet of Gao Wen, it can output more energy in the same time unit, making it possible to realize the fixed star system. In this manifested solar system, there are billions of people on the Earth, and everyone has a sense of existence of Gao Wen. Gao Wen has no ability to control billions of people at the same time, so these people are self-aware, they have their own behavior, they have their own past memories, they don't need Gao Wen to control, but Gao Wen can control each of them. People feel the same way. This manifested Earth is about to unfold the story of the legend of the Dark Knight. And Zakong, as a reincarnator, appeared in it. Zakong felt dazed for a while, and when he regained consciousness, he found himself in London again. It was different from the London he was familiar with, it seemed to be the London of the millennium. He was like a lunatic, doing some strange things to others. He tries to find out the false side of this world, because he does not believe that the movie world really exists, he thinks this world must be false. But no matter how he verified it, he only came to the conclusion that the world was so real that it could no longer be real. It's not his fault, it can only be said that although he knows magic, he is still a mortal. How could a mortal see through the truth? Did I really come to the world in the movie? Zakong was a little suspicious of life. At this moment, the voice of the Lord God that day sounded directly in his heart, causing him to tremble all over again. The main mission has been released. Kill 10 supernatural creatures, reward 5,000 points. When Constantine was performing the Master God mission, Gao Wen was not idle. From Constantine's interference with the plot, he felt the butterfly effect caused by the chain reaction. When he was on Marvel's side, Gao Wen only had one town and one town's population, which didn't make Gao Wen feel the butterfly effect. But now, he has embodied a whole human civilization, including the planet, and the fate of everyone on it is also fixed, until it messes up with Zakong. It is like a mouse shit that ruins a pot of soup. Zakong's chaotic entry caused the butterfly effect, which set off a stormy sea at the level of fate and causation. Because Gao Wen can empathize with everyone on the planet, he can feel every little change in his destiny. Complicated fates are woven into a web, and endless possibilities follow. Different possibilities even constantly form one after another, dreamlike parallel time and space in Gao Wen's sea of consciousness. At this moment, Gao Wen's head is a little overloaded. Fortunately, those so-called parallel time and space are just false illusions formed in his mind. Apart from being very brain-burning, they are not fatal. At this moment, his perception of rule was unprecedentedly clear. The endless possibilities triggered by the butterfly effect have revitalized Gao Wen's entire fantasy world, which constitutes a whole chaos, that is, possibility. Population movement, chemical reaction, meteorological changes, social behavior, etc., when they are combined together, they form a set of dynamic systems, and the variables will be infinite. It is possible to happen in the variables. As long as the variables are pushed, the future timeline can be closed, and the future can be directed to the one you expect. Gao Wen is a little speechless. The rule he wants to understand is obviously real and unreal, but the current result has turned to a possibility similar to origin magic power. Origin magic power. Is this path right for you? Gao Wen doesn't know, but he knows that Jingxiandaoguo can only condense a rule that belongs to him. Now there is a way similar to origin magic power appearing in front of you. As long as you comprehend deeply, you will definitely be able to obtain the same ability as origin magic power, and it is your own ability. That being the case, there is nothing to hesitation. With the decision, Gao Wen stopped hesitation, and immediately devoted himself to the realization of the endless possibilities of chaos. At the time of his realization, Zha Kong became better and better in the world that Gao Wen embodied. This guy is the kind of person who can easily mingle with the 3 religions and 9 streams. The vampires on Blood Clan pride themselves on being noble, and Zha Kong can't get along with them, but he can get along with the werewolf clan. With his insidiousness and cunning, plus a little bit of inconspicuous magic, he can easily take advantage of the werewolf clan. He even heard a legend from the werewolf clan that excited him. Legend has it that both vampires and werewolves originated from a human immortal whose name was Alexander Corvinus. The other party has 3 children. One was bitten by a bat and became a vampire. One was bitten by a wolf and became a werewolf. There is also a pure-blooded human. This child gets married and has children, and with descendants, the blood of the family continues to this day. It is said that those who drink the blood of Alexander Corvinus will gain immortality. Eternal life is a temptation for Zha Kong. So Zha Kong took advantage of the werewolf family and spent some effort to find Alexander Corvinus. Then Alexander's blood was drained by Zha Kong. Through the blood of immortality, Zha Kong obtained the physique of immortality. Immortal blood infected him, rewriting his DNA. Even if the blood of immortality is just something Gao Wen imagined, but Zha Kong is a real person, and the process of changing Zha Kang's genes is an objective fact, so the result of his immortality is also true. Even if Gao Wen ends the fantasy now, the result will not change. As expected of Zha Kong, he can always find a bargain. Vampires and werewolves are extremely dangerous to humans, but Zha Kong can mix in them like a duck. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot for flowers katakana middle dot katakana middle dot o. Under his vicious cunning and intrigue, the werewolf and the vampire clan fought inexorably. He secretly made up for the seriously injured guy, easily completed the task of killing 10 supernatural creatures, and returned to the main god space. At the same time, Gao Wen ended his fantasy. Zha Kong, who had completed the task, was prompted by the Lord God. The next task will start in 10 days, and during this period, he can leave at any time. Zha Kong used the reward points obtained from completing the quest to exchange several magic-looking magics from the main god's system mall. The main divine light ball passed the knowledge of magic to Zha Kang's mind. Zha Kong felt it, and nodded in satisfaction. HMPH, it's not worth my effort to complete the task, it's worth it. After spending all the reward points, he left the main god space and returned to Earth. Gao Wen came to Gotham again. He wanted to meet the legendary Harley Quinn. It is said that Harley Quinn can see through the 4th wall, and can also run through the wall to the DC Comics editorial department to let the editor add drama to her. I don't know if it is true. He walked all the way to the downstairs of Gotham TV. On the wall of the TV station, there was a very large screen, which was playing an interview. The person being interviewed wore a white lab coat, with blonde hair upturned and square glasses on the bridge of the nose, giving people a feeling of intellectual beauty. She is Harley Quinn, or Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Today, she went abroad on the Gotham local stage, telling the audience about her research project, hoping to attract investment. She spent 2 years studying empathy in humans, and came to the conclusion that if humans are in a hostile or high-risk environment, their empathy mechanisms become numb and end up doing something to themselves. There is no guilt about anything. She wants to devise a way to detect the deterioration of empathy through psychological research on villains, so that it can help or stop the poor people who become super-villains in advance. Gao Wen unconsciously recalled the character design of Harley Quinn. In the plot, No one wants to invest in the research project of psychiatrist Harleen Quinzel because it can't make money. Until later, Bruce Wayne found her, and with the help of the other party, Dr. Harleen Quinzel became the psychological consultant of Arkham Asylum, and obtained the opportunity to study the legendary criminal Joker of Gotham. Seeing Joker's life, Harleen eventually becomes Harley. Joker is Gotham's nightmare. Every normal person in this city is afraid of Joker, because every time Joker appears, it will cause the whole city to go crazy. Joker is different from Falcone, Penguin and their underworld emperors. The underworld emperor pursues relative stability, and Joker is only crazy. It can be said that Joker is a legend in the criminal world. It is normal for a criminological psychologist such as Harleen Quinzel to be curious about the ugly psychology of the little 310, and it seems that there is no problem with her wanting to study Joker's behavior. The real problem is that everyone underestimates Joker. Joker's psychology is not understandable by normal people, and only neurotics can understand Joker, such as Batman. The on-screen interview was live, and at the moment Harleen Quinzel was on Gotham TV. Gal Wen didn't wait long. Just in front of the gate of the TV station building, he saw Dr. Harleen Quinzel walking out in the shape of an intellectual lady in a white lab coat. Gal Wen immediately stepped forward, stopped the other party, and said, "Doctor, I'm sick, I need treatment." Harleen Quinzel. She looked up and down the handsome mixed-race guy who claimed to be sick in front of her. From her psychiatrist's point of view, she didn't feel that the other party was sick, but rather came to soak her. "What's wrong with you?" she asked with interest. "I think I can see Death God, but people don't believe me, they think I'm crazy." "Oh, can you describe what the Death God looks like in your eyes?" Harleen Quinzel asked casually. Gal Wen raised his hand and pointed to an old man walking by the side of the road with a cane not far away. "Death God is right next to that old man." Harleen Quinzel turned his head and saw the old man Gal Wen was referring to. Just when Harleen was wondering what to ask, he suddenly found that the old man seemed to have a sudden heart attack. Harleen Quinzel, who has not yet become Harley Quinzel, is still very kind. Even if she becomes Harley Quinn in the future, she actually has a kindness that ordinary people can't understand. When she saw someone in need of help, she ran over to save them and called an ambulance by the way. But unfortunately, before the ambulance arrived, the old man died of a heart attack. Not long after, Harleen Quinzel frowned, walked back to Gal Wen, stared at him seriously, and asked, "What did you do to the old man?" "Why do you think I did it?" Gal Wen asked rhetorically. He didn't do anything to the old man, he just saw that there were many diseases on the old man, and there was a death god beside him. Seeing this phenomenon, he didn't know that the old man was about to die. On the DC side of the world, as long as the lifespan is about to end, there is usually a death god around. It is not that death god kills, their appearance is more of a symbolic meaning. It is said that every death god is the incarnation of death, and in the 600th world, death is the second sister in the endless family. Before she got sick, you pointed at her. You must have some kind of super ability, right? Harleen Quinzel looked at Gal Wen with sharp eyes, like a murderer. "I'm afraid you won't believe me no matter how I explain it, so let's see for yourself." Gal Wen put his arm on Harleen Quinzel's shoulder and said, "Look again." Quote, quote. Harleen Quinzel looked suspiciously at the place where the old man died before. She rubbed her eyes in disbelief, then opened her mouth. In that place, she actually saw a black hooded cloak, a sickle and a smoky makeup, a girl. Next to the girl in the image of Death God, stood the souls of the old man. Their bodies were thin and transparent, and the passers-by around them could not see them. Harleen Quinzel was stunned. Miss Death God seemed to have noticed the gazes of the two of them, glanced at them, smiled slightly, and then turned around and disappeared with the soul of the old man. This is unscientific. If I'm not crazy, the world must be crazy." Harleen Quinzel was speechless. Gal Wen retracted his hand on Harleen Quinzel's shoulder and nodded in agreement. "It seems that we have reached a consensus. If you are not crazy, then I am definitely not crazy." Harleen Quinzel looked at Gal Wen incredulously. "Death God, does it really exist? Why is Death God a girl? Is everything just an illusion? You let me see. I heard that there are super ability people who can create illusions." She asked a lot of questions in one go. She desperately wanted to know the answer. Otherwise, her 3 views are likely to collapse. There's a place where you can find the answer, but it's dangerous. Do you dare to go? Dare, Harleen said without thinking. What danger was nothing compared to the answer he desperately wanted to know. Very good. In 10 days, I will send you there. Remember my name. My name is Gao Wen. I am a friend of life. After Gao Wen finished speaking, he smiled slightly and turned around, just like the previous death god, disappeared. Harleen Quinzel's eyes widened again. 10 days later, Harleen sat alone at home, waiting for Gao Wen to arrive. But when Gao Wen didn't come, she became more and more sleepy, and unknowingly fell into a strange state of being half awake. When she woke up, she suddenly found that she was no longer at home, but a strange place. In addition to herself, there is also a decadent man with short blonde hair wearing a beige-style shirt with a cigarette in his mouth. Is this the place where Gao Wen said he could get answers to the mysterious world? Who are you? Where is this place? Harleen Quinzel asked the blonde man. Next, John Constantine is an exorcist. This is the main god space. Zha Kong saw a beautiful newcomer. He immediately put away his decadence, and tried to behave like a gentleman. Zha Kong likes to pretend to be in front of beautiful women the most, and the first teammate is a beautiful woman, which makes him very excited. Harleen Quinzel, a psychiatrist. Harleen introduced himself. If in the past, someone claimed to be an exorcist in front of her, she would definitely not believe it. But the experience of seeing Death God with her own eyes 10 days ago made her know that this world is not as simple as she thought. Zha Kong and Harleen Quinzel were chatting with each other, and not long after, the voice of the Lord God, like the voice of the sky, resounded through the Lord God Square. The two of them were shaken by the voice that penetrated the soul. Zha Kong is used to it, and his body will return to normal after a little bit of dexterity. But Harleen Quinzel's reaction was a bit big. Not only did she shudder, but the voice of the sky seemed to have awakened something incredible in her body, which seemed to be a second personality. Same as last time, it is still one of 3 choices. 1. Go to Van Helsing to kill vampires. 2. Go to the Hunger Games to live to the end. 3. Go to World of Warcraft and kill the Lich King. Zha Kong was thinking about which one to choose. He had seen the movie Van Helsing, and knew that the vampires in it were much more powerful than the vampires in the Legend of the Dark Knight, and they were also close to the vampires in reality. Zha Kong knows a vampire, the other is the husband of the vampire queen Bloody Mary, who is a blood descendant of Cain, named Andrew Bennett. Unlike Bloody Mary, who is so murderous, Andrew is a vegetarian. Among vampires, he and Zha Kong relationship is good. Of these 3 stories, Zha Kong has only seen Van Helsing, and the other 2 are only heard of. One is a chick movie, and the other seems to be a magical game. It stands to reason that he should choose the more familiar, Van Helsing, rather than choose the other 2 unknown specifics. However, Zha Kong never played cards according to the routine. He had already been in contact with vampires in the last mission. If he were to deal with vampires in this mission, it would be too boring. Therefore, the first option was directly dropped by him. In The Hunger Games and World of Warcraft, he chose World of Warcraft. The latter can be profitable at first glance. Zha Kong is inspired to be Kong Sangwang, and he will go to World of Warcraft to pluck Yan Guo. What Zha Kong didn't notice was that Harleen Quinzel, who was on the side, showed an exaggerated smile at the corner of his mouth at the moment, which was completely different from before, especially in terms of temperament. The change was too great. Hello, my name is Harley Quinzel. Harleen Quinzel greeted an unknown presence towards an uninhabited place, as if there was an audience there. Zha Kong immediately noticed Harleen, or Harley's anomaly. Ah, dual personality. Zha Kong sensed the problem. Yeah, Harleen is my good friend, I'm Harley. Harley nodded seriously. Oh, so who were you talking to just now? Audience everywhere. Zha Kong immediately looked around vigilantly, but he did not see the so-called audience. He didn't think that Harley Quinn's words would be groundless, and the person who would be selected to enter the main god's space must have something special, such as himself. If Harley Quinn said there was an audience, there probably was an audience. Zha Kong, who didn't believe in evil, began to use some of the perception magic he knew to perceive possible gazes, but as before, he still didn't find anything. Don't look for him, he is not in the same dimension as us. Is it in the five-dimensional heaven? You guessed it. Harley Quinn winked at Zhakong. Zhakong, well, what did you see besides the audience? I also saw the upcoming stage. You and I are both actors. Our task is to act to please the audience. If the audience is happy, they will reward us. Harley said seriously. Zhakong was a little crazy. In addition to Zhakong, there are also people who are crazy. That person is the ubiquitous audience in Harley's mouth, Gao Wen. Obviously, Harleen Quinzel's second personality, Harley Quinzel, saw Gao Wen in a higher dimension through his ability to see through the fourth wall, and regarded Gao Wen as a spectator. Gao Wen is also very unbelieving. He tried to say something outside the dimension. Act well, I'm optimistic about you. If it was a normal person, he would never hear Gao Wen's words, because Gao Wen and the two people in the main god space are still separated by a spatial dimension. But Harley Quinn is definitely not a normal person. She really heard Gao Wen's words, and blew a kiss to the sky on the main god square. Well, you can watch this girl's performance. The corner of Gao Wen's mouth twitched outside the dimension. Really evil. Gao Wen feels that he has a new research direction, to study Harley's ability to see through the fourth wall. This ability is not strong, but it can definitely make people, accidents in fate, that is, fate cannot the man in control. I definitely can't let go of the previous insights, and we also need to deeply understand the endless possibilities of chaos. If there is a small accident in the possibilities, such as Harley Quinn, it should be able to extend more possibilities in the endless possibilities, and then set off a monstrous wave at the level of destiny. The addition of Harley Quinn will definitely accelerate Gao Wen's perception of rule. It was a pleasant surprise. Like Zhakong, Harley also chose World of Warcraft. Outside the main god space, in the dark area between a galaxy and galaxies in the universe, Gao Wen embodied a fixed star, a planet, and a satellite here. They are the sun, the planet Azeroth, and the moon. On the planet of Azeroth, the story of World of Warcraft takes place. Timeline: the eve of the Great Plague event in Stratholme. Location: Stratholme. Zhakong and Harley appeared out of nowhere in Stratholme. This is a medieval-style city, and it is also the base of the Church of the Holy Light. The famous Archbishop Fao and the Knights of the Silver Hand are all in this city. This is a religious city, and even the Prince of Lordaeron, Arthas Menai-Hill, is proud to be a member of the Knights of the Silver Hand. The two came here, because the style of clothing was too strange, and they were caught by the person in the Knights of the Silver Hand as suspicious elements. Originally, Zhakong wanted to use a little magic to fool the past, but was stopped by Harley shaking his head. It's the paladin who caught us, your little magic won't work. How do you know it doesn't work? They and you have chat bubbles above your heads that say yeah. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Zhakong raised his head suspiciously, but where are the bubbles on his head? In the comics, Harley Quinn does have this quirky ability. In her eyes, other people's heads are covered with chat bubbles in social software chat boxes, which will show people's inner thoughts. For example, in the chat bubbles on the heads of these paladins, it is written, down pointing arrow. What are these two guys muttering about? They are dressed so strangely and are too suspicious, we must take them back to the Lord for interrogation. Will escort a lady, will it go against the spirit of chivalry? Harley also saw this passage on Zhakong's head, down pointing arrow. Look at me using magic to restrain you. Because Harley saw the hard words coming out of Zhakong's head, he stopped Zhakong from using magic. The two had a very unfavorable start, and they were caught by the Knights of the Silver Hand as soon as they came up. But with the existence of Harley, the development of the story after that can be called a sharp turn. Everywhere, Gao Wen watched Harley's performance with interest, not to mention interesting. Harley pretended to be a prophet who knew everything, gained the trust of the High Lord Tyrion Fordring, and then began to get out of hand. Harley's spoof behavior has set off a huge wave in the long river of fate in this world, and the fate is extending in an unbelievable direction. At the very beginning of this story, Gao Wen has seen many different but interesting endings. At this moment, his perception of rule was unprecedentedly strong. These perceptions are turned into rules and gradually integrated into Gao Wen's body. The 5 chi in his chest are condensed, and 3 flower bones that have not yet bloomed appear in the primordial spirit. As long as the calamity is over, the 3 flowers will gather on the top, the 5 chi will rise to the prime, and the golden immortal fruit will be obtained. It's just that there is no heavenly Tao on the DC side, and naturally there will not be a test that heavenly Tao imposes on practitioners, heavenly tribulation. If you want to pass the calamity, you have to go back to the world of heaven. The improvement of his realm, the movement at the spiritual level was a bit big, so he woke up the original owner who had been sleeping in this body, Wanda number 2. That's not to mention, Gao Wen's diligence in cultivation and the surge in the gods' telekinesis have formed a spiritual trend in the sea of consciousness, and the trend of thought inadvertently washed away the part of Wanda number 2's body and soul that was destroyed by the great ghost. Thorn's dip. Because it has been purified a lot, the awakened Wanda number 2 is very awake, and there is no sign of blacken at all. Gao Wen appeared in Wanda's spiritual world, face to face. You're awake. Yeah, Wanda nodded silently. Speaking of which, during the time Gao Wen used her body, she knew everything that happened, so she didn't wonder why the other party appeared in her spiritual world. What are your plans for the future? I don't know. Wanda too was confused. She recalled the wrong things she had done during Blacken. Although those were not her own intentions, but were influenced by some existence, she still felt bad. Some things are done and cannot be undone. She didn't know how to face her former friend and could only choose to escape. If you want to go back, I can send you. Continue to maintain the status quo, there are some things I need to think about. Wanda number 2 does not know why, although he is not familiar with Gao Wen, but he subconsciously trusts each other. Yes, Gao Wen didn't refuse. The two didn't speak after that. Gao Wen sat cross-legged on the lawn imagined in Wanda's spiritual world, closed his eyes and continued to comprehend the rule. Although it is only a matter of transcending the calamity now, it will not hurt to have a deeper understanding of rules of chaos. Because he and Wanda are currently using the same body, and Gao Wen is still borrowing the origin magic power of Wanda number 2, so Wanda can also empathize with Gao Wen to a certain extent, feel the fantasy world outside, feel every people, even feel endless possibilities. Wanda number 2 never thought that origin magic power could be used on such a large scale. If it were her own, let alone using it to create the fixed star system, the reality of changing a city was the limit. She curiously observed the fantasy world of Azeroth, and gathered her will to the city of Stratholme in the kingdom of Lordaeron. At the moment there was a plague of undead. Prince Arthas ordered the massacre of the city in order to avoid the spread of the plague, despite the opposition of other paladins and his girlfriend Jaina. Some paladins were unwilling to do this and parted ways with Prince Arthas. Even Alsace's girlfriend, the magician, Jaina, couldn't stand it anymore, was disappointed with Alsace and left him. Wanda number 2 also sees Harley Quinn and Zac Kong, whose paintings are out of tune with this world. Zhakong was in Stratholme City, where a raging fire was burning, and there were people infected with the plague of the undead who were about to turn into zombies. In such a chaotic environment, he slipped into the Cathedral of Holy Light, as if to steal the holy light of others. Classics. Harley Quinn left Stratholme with the great magician Jaina Proudmoore. She seemed to have a very good relationship with the beautiful magician, who had only just met each other. Wanda number 2 and Gao Wen silently stayed in the former's spiritual world, observing the changes in the fantasy world together. Time goes by day. Prince Arthas is finally Blacken. He not only killed his childhood sweetheart Jaina's teacher Antonidas, but also killed his own father. But Arthas did not become the new Lich King, and was taken away by Zhakong for his good chance. Zhakong not only obtained Frostmourne created by the Dreadlord, but also used the Dreadlord's magic, pretend to be remotely controlled by the Lich King Ner'zhul, and finally go to Icecrown Citadel, fight with Ner'zhul, and finally abolish Ner'zhul. Successfully obtained the Lich King's helmet and put it on. Under the blessing of the Lich King's helmet, Zhakang's spiritual power has been strengthened, and the spiritual power alone can spread to half a continent. There is a saying that the warrior called Dragon Slayer will eventually become a dragon. Obviously, the goal of the Lord God's mission is to let them kill the Lich King, but Zhakong himself became the Lich King. And Harley's side, it's even more incredible. Chapter 91. After talking about Zhakong, let's talk about Harley. After Harley left Stratholme with Jaina Proudmoore, they went to the magical kingdom of Dalaran together. During this period, they also became good friends with Jaina. But Harley is not a master who can settle down, especially since she also knows that there are audiences outside, and she is only an actor, so it is even more impossible for her to settle down. What she has to do is to perform well, please the audience, and increase her popularity. Harley has done a lot of things in Dalaran through his relationship with the genius magician Jaina. Even if she is a muggle and doesn't know magic, but relying on the professional quality of a psychiatrist, she has successfully become the spiritual mentor of many magicians. Within a few days, she has attracted the respect of many magicians, and even made Ken Kael'thas Sunstrider, the High Elf Prince of the Council of Six of Rito, is not fond of him. Later, she was invited by Prince Kael'thas Sunstrider to visit Quel'Thalas, the home of the High Elves. After coming to Quel'Thalas, Harley immediately started to do things. She stole things from others and was discovered by others. She was immediately wanted by the whole city. All the High Elves were gnashing their teeth against her, even Kael'thas. Prince Sunstrider was stunned by Harley's actions, and regretted that Harley came to his hometown. Because Harley somehow bypassed the Sunwell barrier and stole the magic energy spring in the Sunwell, and it was a large amount of magic springs enough to fill several magic storage bags. Later, Harley made the water from the Sunwell into a highly concentrated arcane bomb. This thing has no technical content, as long as you know how to make the arcane energy react violently, and then simply make it according to the method of making gunpowder bombs, the arcane bomb is made. An arcane bomb with the size of a glass bead file is much more powerful than a dynamite bag, and it is also convenient to carry around. Harley, who made a lot of bombs, fled from the High Elves' territory and ran to the Trolls' territory. She was the bomb girl all the way, and the roaring sound was loud everywhere she passed. Paid a troll tribe, and won the title of Bomb Shaman. You thought this was over? No, this is just the beginning. Harley borrowed a deceit orb from Jaina using the magical communication device Jaina gave her, and used it to disguise herself into a troll. With the basic set, Harley embarked on a journey to expand the territory, and gradually, let him unify all the troll tribes near Quel'Thalas. The trolls have low IQs, but their fighting power is amazing. They basically don't form groups on weekdays, so they pose no threat to the High Elves of Quel'Thalas. However, under the rule of Queen Quinn, the troll clan has formed a string. There is actually a kind of battle of the ancient troll empire period. As a result, trolls began to sweep Quel'Thalas, and an inexplicable war broke out inexplicably. The rangers among the High Elves are all strong, and they fight against Queen Quinn's troll army, led by Ranger General Hilvan as Windrunner. Soon after the war started, Queen Quinn disappeared. She used the Orb of Deception to turn herself into a High Elf. Taking advantage of the fact that no one paid attention to Sunwell during the war, she ran here to fight the autumn wind. This time, she prepared even more. The magic storage bag alone brought several kilograms, and after a lot of tossing, the Sunwell was emptied. Obtained a large amount of magical energy, Harley successfully retreated, left the territory of the High Elves, and went to Stormwind City in the Human Kingdom. In Stormwind City, Harley met the Countess Katrana Prestor, who looked like a human noble lady, but was actually the Black Dragon Princess Onyxia. Harley colluded with the Black Dragon Princess and began to harm Stormwind City again. With the help of the Black Dragon Princess, she engaged in a dragon magic ritual, combined with the magic energy driving ritual in the Sunwell that she had done before. She was stunned to transform herself from a human into a human and adult Black Dragon. With the identity of the Black Dragon, she will be good with the Black Dragon Princess. After that, Harley also did a lot of hateful things, where he went to trouble where he went, especially after getting on the line with Princess Hylong. The trouble index skyrocketed, and even Princess Hylong couldn't admire her, and was happy to cooperate with her. In the end, Harley put Rin's surname on his head in a justifiable way, and became the Queen of Stormwind BFFA, and also won the support of many nobles of the kingdom. Obviously, World of Warcraft is an extremely dangerous place, but whether it is Harley or Zakong, it is very unscientific to be able to get along in this world. Wanda number 2, who has been in the audience with Gao Wen, was stunned. Harley and Zakong, if these two troublemakers were in the world before she passed through, they would definitely be swept away by superhero. They are synonymous with chaos. Fortunately, this world called Azeroth is just a world imagined by Gao Wen. If this is changed to the real world, Wanda number 2 will definitely not be able to watch it, and maybe he will act for the sky. What did you learn from watching it for so long? Gao Wen asked her. I didn't learn anything. Wanda number 2 shook her head. She wasn't Gao Wen, but she didn't cultivate. It was impossible to understand rule in this way. To put it another way, if you put you in Harley's position and become an ordinary person without super ability, can you achieve her achievements in less than a year? Can't do it. Since you can't do it, then learn more. After you learn it, you won't suffer any losses. Wanda number 2 hurriedly shook her head. She didn't want to learn the behavior pattern of that lunatic. The Lich King Zhakong and Queen Qin finally completed the mission of the Lord God. The reason why Za Kong wants to become the Lich King is just to learn the undead magic recorded in the Lich King helmet, and he abdicates after he learns it. The knife killed him, and the mission was done. The two returned to the main god space. This more than a year-long mission career has left both of them a little unfinished. The first time they returned to the main god space, the two exchanged a lot of things in the main god mall, and what Za Kong exchanged was still magic knowledge. Harley exchanged some dragon language magic. After all, he changed his race into a black dragon. He definitely wanted to learn some dragon magic. After the two left the main god space, the dreamed world of Azeroth disappeared. Gao Wen and Wanda number 2 appeared out of thin air in space. Around the two, there is a transparent ecological ball, which isolates the cosmic vacuum environment. I'm going to the heavenly Tao world to transcend the calamity. Do you want a piece? Well, Wanda number 2 also had nowhere to go, so she decided to follow Gao Wen. In the world of heavenly Tao, Gao Wen has developed a believer, and now he is just positioning it. But when Gao Wen used ability and was about to travel with Wanda number 2, he realized a problem. His ability is not enough to penetrate the world's firewall. The last time I went, I passed through the door of surprise. However, the door of surprise is impossible to accurately locate a certain world, and its randomness is so unreasonable. Unable to go to Heaven World temporarily, Gao Wen can only take Wanda number 2 back to his pocket home space first. Today, there is not a single person in the Villa of Space Home, not even Tunmei, who has always been a housekeeper. I don't know where they all went. However, it was more important to find a place that could survive the calamity first, so Gao Wen did not go to them. He now has two options. First, go to Lady Fenglixi. She is a saint, and she may be able to simulate the way of heaven to thunder tribulation. But Gao Wen didn't want to bother him. Well, the real reason is that the opportunity to travel with Wanda 2 is rare, and he doesn't really want to miss it. Gao Wen admitted that he also had a bit of interest in Wanda number 2, especially when he found Wanda number 2's body very pure when he borrowed it. Although Wanda number 2 has a relationship with Vision, Vision is just a robot. Heck, that's what happened anyway. Since I don't want to go to Fenglixi, I can only use the door of surprise to find a world that can survive the catastrophe. Generally speaking, the world where there is a catastrophe is a world of Shenxia style. There are so many stories of Shenxia, and there must be many similar planes in the endless plane. The door of surprise always brings surprises to Gao Wen. When Gao Wen has a request, the place it can connect to is very likely to be where Gao Wen wants to go. Wanda number 2 looked at Gao Wen's house curiously. She found a photo frame next to the TV in the living room. On the photo in it, she saw her peer. Exactly the same. In the photo, Wanda number 1 is happily snuggling up in Gao Wen's arms, both with smiles on their faces. She walked over, picked up the frame, and looked at the pictures. In the future, will you and the other I have children? Gao Wen, who was about to open the door of surprise, was taken aback by the question of Wanda number 2. Thinking of Wanda number 2's past, Gao Wen nodded, yes. The door to surprise reopens. Reopen constantly. After dozens of times, it was connected to a suitable plane. It's not a world of heaven, but a world of self-cultivation where Gao Wen doesn't know what's going on in it. Gao Wen held out his hand to Wanda 2 and said, let's go. Looking at Gao Wen's outstretched hand, Wanda number 2 hesitated, but finally put his hand up and was held by the other party. It's not good for us, Wanda said hesitantly. It's just holding hands, it's not that serious. Gao Wen was very guilty, but his expression was magnanimous. It's hypocritical. Fortunately, his acting skills are good, and he was not seen abnormal by Wanda no. 2. Seeing that the peers are so happy in the photo, it would be absolutely false to say that Wanda number 2 is not envious. She recalled Vision unconsciously, and longing appeared in her eyes. But she knows that Vision no longer exists, she just can't let go of the happy times in the past. The two held hands and walked into the door of surprise. Behind the door is the mortal world of the unknown world of self-cultivation. The time flow in this world is also extremely fast. In 10 years here, only one day has passed in Marvel's side. It can be said that it is the world with the greatest time difference that Gao Wen has ever experienced. As soon as he came to this world, Gao Wen felt the pull of the world, and that force wanted to pull him up. Gao Wen slightly adjusted his breath and suppressed his immortal cultivation. When it was suppressed to the Mahayana period, the intelligence of reception was still there. Gao Wen frowned. The world's soaring rule is sick. Or, can the rules of this world detect that they are hiding their cultivation? Gao Wen did not believe in evil and continued to suppress his cultivation. When he suppressed his cultivation to the fusion stage, the power of ascension did not completely disappear. Gao Wen has some enlightenment in his heart. Maybe this world has a system of immortality that is different from the world of heaven. He unfolded the god's telekinesis and scanned the mortal world. She found that there is no concept of the universe in this world, and the starry sky at night is just a background texture, but the mortal world is quite big, at least much larger than the earth. Gao Wen's the god's telekinesis can easily cover the whole world, and even penetrate the world barrier and scan the fairyland and other corners of the mortal world. After some perception, he understood the basic situation of this world. Although the people here are also cultivating immortals, they are not the same immortals who cultivate in the world of heaven. If I have to say it, the monks here are more like the ancient chi refiners. Their realm is divided like this: breathing, activating, refining, fetal breathing, transforming spirits, accumulating pills, nourishing pills, and forming pills. Among them, breathing, activating chi, refining chi, and fetal breath all belong to the realm of chi training, but this realm of chi training is different from the realm of chi training in the world of heaven. It can be equivalent to the golden core stage of the heavenly Tao world. And in this world's core state, it is not the golden core of the world of heaven, but the golden core of law. Once the golden core of law is condensed, you can initially master the rule. In terms of comprehending the rule, it has more advantages than the system of the world of heaven, but is inferior in other respects. The monks in this world, once they condense the law golden pill, can fly into the fairyland. In the immortal realm, it is Jindan Zhoujuan who practiced in the immortal realm, and he turned one step at a time, and he became an immortal emperor in the 9th position. The realm of the immortal emperor is about equal to the golden immortal of the heavenly Tao world. After breaking through, it is said that he can continue to ascend and enter the realm of the gods. There are many worlds in this plane. There are 3,000 fairy worlds under the god world, and there are 3,000 mortal worlds under each fairy world. The world that Gao Wen and Wanda number 2 are currently in belongs to a certain fairy world. One of the mortals. Every mortal world is a round place, not a planet, and its range is not large, and it will not exceed the range of 0.1 light-year diameter. The scale of the fairy world is much larger, about 10 light-years in diameter. As for the realm of the gods, it is not clear. In this way, if Gao Wen wants to transcend the calamity, he needs to ascend to the immortal realm. Once he successfully transcends the tribulation, he will be comparable to the immortal emperor in the immortal realm. However, considering the cultivation system in this world, every cultivator here condensed the law early. I am afraid that at the rule level alone, it has more advantages than the Jinxian realm that Gao Wen is about to break through. Suddenly, Gao Wen's eyes narrowed. With his the god's telekinesis, he perceives that there is a fairy in the immortal emperor realm in the immortal realm, who is going down to the realm in the state of a soul body, and there are many magic weapons and medicinal pills wrapped in the sea of consciousness of his soul. In the process of her being in the lower world, her soul gradually transformed into an embryo, as if she wanted to be reincarnated in the mortal world. Gao Wen raised his eyebrows. He looked at Wanda beside him and asked her, "Do you want children?" "I think," Wanda replied subconsciously, and only after she realized what Gao Wen asked, she immediately widened her eyes, let go of Gao Wen's hand, and took a step back subconsciously. "What do you want to do?" Being watched by Wanda number 2 like an enemy, Gao Wen knew that he caused a misunderstanding, coughed lightly, and explained, "I didn't want you to be born." Could it be adoption? Wanda breathed a sigh of relief. What the other party said just now, she sounded like she thought the other party wanted to do something to her, which really surprised her. "No, just look at it." Gao Wen smirked and began to act. From Gao Wen as the center, the shimmer of life gradually blooms, and the shimmer turns into a life zone and spreads out over a range of more than 10 meters. Wanda recognizes Gao Wen's trick. When he first met Gao Wen, the other party used this trick to deal with him. Honestly, the magic was still fresh in her memory, mostly a little disgusting and scary. The shimmer of life area covers Gao Wen and Wanda. There are 310s in the low light area in the life refraction effect. Under the active control of Gao Wen, Wanda's DNA is refracted and combined with the microorganisms floating in the air. In the middle of the two, there was a single-celled organism rapidly dividing and multiplying, and gradually forming a piece of meat, which was covered with peristaltic granulation. During the peristalsis, it became bigger and bigger. Wanda got goosebumps when she saw this scene. It was disgusting too. Fortunately, this process was not long. The wriggling flesh gradually turned into a human shape, faded from blood, grew hair, and stood in place. Gao Wen admired his masterpiece with satisfaction. Wanda number 2 is very shy, because this suspected clone looks exactly like her and has nothing on her body, which means that she is also seen by Gao Wen. This made her very shy. She hurriedly cast origin magic power and copied her clothes on the clone body. "It's not that I haven't seen it," Gao Wen underestimated in a low voice. Wanda number 2 glared at Gao Wen. Gao Wen changed the subject decisively. "I'm going to let this clone help you get pregnant." "Who is the man?" Wanda number 2 looked at Gao Wen in disbelief. Gao Wen smiled, decisively refracted his genetic information, sent it to the body of the Wanda clone, and guided the fairy who was going down to the world to reincarnate into the Wanda clone's belly. Now it only takes 10 months for the baby to be born. Gao Wen put away the shimmering area of life as he spoke. Wanda no. 2 people plus a clone. A group of 3 people lived in seclusion to the ends of the earth in the south of the world. There is a fairly good spiritual vein in this place, which provides spiritual energy to this area all the time. The spiritual energy nourishes all things, making it green here. An exquisite log cabin was built beside a lake here, and Gao Wen and his party temporarily stayed in this place. Wanda number 2 takes good care of her clone, or in other words, she is very concerned about the baby in the clone's belly. Although she didn't give birth to her own, the one who wants to have a baby is her own clone, which is roughly equivalent to her born. The clone does not have a self, but Wanda can feel the same way with her, because Gao Wen casts a spell to temporarily connect Wanda with the clone. For Wanda number 2, the clone is like her duplication. Because of this incident, every time Wanda number 2 met Gao Wen face to face, she could not help being shy, because she already knew that Gao Wen was the father of the child. On this day, Gao Wen personally cooked a sumptuous dinner. Gao Wen and Wanda number 2 sat at the dining table and ate together. The clone of Wanda number 2 does not need to eat, it can automatically draw energy from the free microorganisms around it. During the meal, Gao Wen said, "During the daytime, I set up several formations around here. They can effectively avoid being disturbed here, and I will be away for a while later, so stay here and don't run around." "Where?" Wanda too asked. Knowing that Gao Wen was going to leave, she felt a little reluctant in her heart. She was shocked by her own emotions. Did she fall in love with him? It's impossible. Obviously they haven't known each other for a long time, and the two of them can't even be considered acquaintances. "I'm going to the immortal realm to transcend the calamity. If it goes well, I will be back within a month," Gao Wen explained. Note: pay attention to safety, Wanda number 2 said, blushing and bowing her head. In the early morning of the next day, Gao Wen was sent off by Wanda number 2. Instead of suppressing the realm of immortality, he directly soared in the daytime. In the immortal realm, there are many ascension points. After the mortal monks ascend, they will randomly appear in one of the ascension points. Because there are 3,000 mortals under the immortal realm, many monks ascend to the immortal realm every day. Generally speaking, cultivators who can soar are big bosses in the mortal world, and their net worth is very rich. Even if the things in the mortal world are not as good as those in the immortal world, things like spirit stones can be used as hard currency even in the immortal world. Some cultivators in the immortal realm saw the business opportunity and set up shops at each ascension point. Gradually, each ascension point formed a square market one by one. After Gao Wen ascended, he descended to a place called Shengxian Town. Looking around, it is a stone hall with a very high dome. He's the only one here so far. This should be the legendary Ascension Hall. Thinking like this, he stepped out of the Ascension Hall. As soon as he went out, he saw a few female goblins with the beast-eared mother attribute approaching, and proposed to be Gao Wen's ascension guide. The guides, to put it bluntly, are the tour guides. They may come from different forces or businesses. When receiving the ascenders, they will take the ascenders to their own stores, and let the ascendants spend there to make money. Gao Wen came here to escape the robbery, not to travel and shop, so he released a little bit of his breath. Comparable to the aura of the world's Law Jindan rank 8 peak, even if it only releases a trace silk, it is like a heavenly might to all the monks in this town. These female fairies were under coercion, and immediately fell to their knees, shivering, calling themselves seniors, and begging for mercy. Gao Wen ignored them, shrank in steps and disappeared in Shengxian Town. Gao Wen's the god's telekinesis expanded to the maximum. I have to say that the fairyland is really big, and there is a strange rule here to suppress the god's telekinesis, so that Gao Wen's the god's telekinesis can only spread to 1/10,000th of the fairyland area, and only covers ordinary areas. And where there are sects or natural formations, the god's telekinesis will be isolated by the formation and cannot penetrate. Gao Wen picked a no man's land, teleported over there, and prepared to transcend tribulation there. In the cloudless clear sky, the sun should have illuminated the earth, but at the moment, the dark clouds converged at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a moment, the sky was blocked, and darkness descended on the earth. A few kilometers before the radius, it was pitch black, and the heavy dark clouds seemed to be pressing down on the ground, giving the feeling that the sky was about to collapse. The dark cloud gradually turned into a thunder cloud, and the catastrophe was brewing in it. The terrifying prestige suddenly descended and spread to all sides of the immortal realm, declaring that a new immortal emperor was about to be born. In the immortal realm, almost every cultivator whose cultivation base is above the 5th rank of the golden core of law has felt the fluctuation of this emperor calamity. There are not many immortal emperors in the immortal world, less than 30. Therefore, every time a new immortal emperor is born, it is a great event. After many immortal world powerhouses felt the emergence of the Emperor's tribulation, they all unanimously displayed their great magical powers and moved towards this side. They wanted to know who was crossing the Emperor's tribulation. Before the heavenly tribulation officially descended, more than a dozen cultivators came to the periphery of the Emperor's tribulation cloud. They were all immortal emperors of the rank 9 Law Jindan realm, and they were also the top of the food chain in the immortal world, strong. There the god's telekinesis swept towards the people who crossed the tribulation under the robbery cloud. However, the people who transcended the calamity had already set up anti-spying formations around them, and these immortal emperors the god's telekinesis were blocked. The immortal emperors are not bothered, nor do they want to interfere with the tribulation of the people, because everyone knows that once someone enters the robbery, the people who enter the robbery will also be dragged into the thunder tribulation. A baptism of a powerful thunder tribulation higher than one's own realm basically has death and no life. Unless it is tired of living, no one will do this kind of detrimental thing to others. Among them, immortal Emperor Hongqian frowned, her right hand pinching her fingers to calculate something. Do you know the person who has transcended the calamity? On the side, a man in Xingyi saw immortal Emperor Hongqian's expression, thinking that the other party knew the person who had transcended the calamity. I can't calculate the origin of the person who crossed the calamity. In the fairyland, there are almost no traces of him. Immortal Emperor Hongqian shook his head. She lied, at least she didn't finish her sentence. Although she didn't calculate the origin of the person who transcended the calamity, she calculated that the other party and her disciple, Bikwan Immortal Emperor, were quite related. Immortal Emperor Bikwan was difficult to recover because of the damage to his origin. As her master, Immortal Emperor Hongqian could only use his supernatural powers to send his apprentice to the mortal world to reincarnate in the mortal world, and repair the origin of his apprentice's injury in a way similar to deleting and retraining. If there is no accident in the process, it will take at least 3,000 years for Bikwan to restore the cultivation base of the previous life, and to restore the memory of the previous life, it must be after becoming an immortal. Immortal Emperor Hongqian was a little confused. Why did that unknown person who survived the calamity have a cause and effect with his disciple Bikwan? In order to understand this matter, she can only increase the consumption of immortal power and primordial spirit, and continue to calculate. Among the dozen or so immortal emperors present, only immortal Emperor Hongqian was the most outstanding in the way of calculation, because the Tao of cause and effect was the foundation of her enlightenment. Under the same realm, no one can be stronger than the red dust in this respect. At the expense of consuming immortal power and the god's telekinesis, the red dust immortal emperor really calculated something. That is a picture. In the picture, his disciple Bikwan was reincarnated into the body of a woman in the human world. Next to the woman, there was a man who could not see his face clearly. He seemed to be the woman's husband. That man should be the one who is going through the emperor's calamity at the moment. Immortal Emperor Hongqian frowned. She sent her disciple Bikwan down to earth to reincarnate, just want him to be born in an ordinary family, not in the womb of other powerful wives. This will involve more cause and effect, not necessarily good thing. At this time, the thunder robbery came down. Gao Wen hovered cross-legged in midair, mana surging all over his body, constantly conforming his body to chaos, rule. The surging mana, the probability of constant modification, makes the probability of death and death infinitely approaching zero. In addition, he has no extra defense, and allows thunder to come. Every thunder can shatter part of Gao Wen's body. Broken wounds healed again at a speed visible to the naked eye. The power contained in the thunder tribulation is also acting on Gao Wen's Taoist foundation, constantly consolidating. Thunder is getting more and more intensive. At a certain moment, Gao Wen's 5 qi gathered in his chest, and the 3 flowers of the primordial spirit above his head were in full bloom. Chaos's the power of rules, formed the fruit of the Tao in his sea of consciousness, and the 3 flowers of the primordial spirit in full bloom, responding to the rule, became hazy and illusory, including possibility, which is the symbol of chaos. Chaos is not easy to control, because it represents endless possibilities. Even if Gao Wen breaks through Jinxian at this moment and obtains his own power of rules of chaos, it may take some time to control it perfectly. And now, this ability is a little out of control. The thunder tribulation in the sky is slowly dissipating, but Gao Wen is involuntarily releasing his new ability, and he can't control it at all. In the surrounding large area, the probability is constantly changing, making the world bizarre. Even Gao Wen's original abilities were brought out by the out of control the power of rules, forming an uncontrolled crazy enhanced version of life glimmering area around thousands of kilometers. In this area, not only the probability is changing, but the DNA of all kinds of life within the range is also being refracted frantically, giving birth and mutation. The immortal emperors who were watching from afar, as well as the rank 8 immortal kings and the 7th rank immortal monarchs who came to join in the fun, were also included in the scope of the life glimmering area. On their bodies, various body parts began to grow frantically. Some people have branches, some people have dense eyes, and some people have the limbs of other animals. The experts in the immortal realm who noticed this, immediately realized that the ability of the person who transcended the calamity might be out of control. It is not unheard of in the past for Emperor Cheng to lose control after the catastrophe, so they each resorted to protective magic weapons in an attempt to block the life effect of Shimmer. But this is of no use, because life always finds a way out. The low light in the low light zone is not an attack, it is just spreading the seed of life in a chaotic way. It will penetrate all obstacles. Aware of the lethality of this area, everyone left the shimmering area of life at the fastest speed. It was not until after they escaped that they used their magical powers to eliminate the excess body parts on their bodies. Gao Wen landed on the ground reluctantly. He felt his ability and tried to control them, but he was still far from perfect control. He believes that he has to retreat for at least 100 years before he can initially let his ability no longer get out of control. And it will take longer to fully control your own ability. Why is this so? Gao Wen guessed that it may be that the system of the heavenly Tao world is incompatible with the thunder tribulation of this world, which led to the loss of ability after the calamity. If it is in the world of heaven, there may be no such hidden dangers. Mortal world, the ends of the earth, lakeside cottages. Wanda too lives here with her clone. It has been a month since Gao Wen left. Although Wanda number 2 was reluctant to admit it, in her heart, she was thinking of Gao Wen. She was very puzzled about her psychological changes. On the one hand, she refused to admit it, and on the other hand, she had expectations. In short, it was very contradictory. During this month, she has become accustomed to living here, and is looking forward to the early birth of the child in the clone's belly. She even had a name for the child. The clone, at the moment sitting on the leather sofa in the wooden house, sitting there motionless, she and Wanda number 2 have the same appearance, body and dress, but she is a clone, no soul, no self, she exists. The only reason is to help ontology surrogate to have children. She also doesn't need to eat or drink, because when Gao Wen created her, she endowed her with some peculiar abilities, such as absorbing nutrients and water from the air. Even if she doesn't eat or drink, nothing will happen. She won't get sick either, because the bacteria that formed the basis of her existence in the first place, it's really impossible for ordinary viruses to infect him, and if she really wants to make her sick, she has to come with the T virus. So she doesn't need to be taken care of, just leave it here and be a vegetable. At the moment, Wanda was sitting alone on the swing between two trees in the yard outside the log house. This swing was built by Wanda half a month ago, and it even woven a swing chair with flowers and vines on it. Sitting on it and shaking it, she was in a trance, not knowing what she was thinking. Maybe she was reminiscing about the past, or maybe she was thinking about the future. At this moment, the space in front of her shattered, forming a pitch-black space cave. Gao Wen stepped out of it. Gao Wen, who can't suppress ability, has a brass-colored metal array floating on top of his head. This is the copycat version of the Juku Yellow River array that Gao Wen refined at the beginning. With it, he can expand the array space and connect Gao Wen with reality. Isolate and avoid the runaway ability from interfering with reality. His current state can be seen but not touched, because he is actually still in the space of the formation, and the outward appearance of him is just a phantom that looks extremely real. Seeing Gao Wen's return, Wanda number 2 stood up in surprise, but immediately realized that she was so unreserved. Her cheeks flushed slightly, and she sat back again, pretending to be calm and saying, "You're back." Well, the robbery was successful, but when the ability became stronger, it was also a little out of control, so. Gao Wen briefly told Wanda number 2 about his current situation, including the appearance of out of control, and the fact that he is currently in the formation space. "Can I go into your formation space and take a look? Maybe I can help you," Wanda said. "Okay." Gao Wen waved and pulled Wanda into the formation space. The environment of the array space evolves with reference to the external space. What the outside world is like is what it is like in the formation. The difference is that no matter how the environment in the formation space is destroyed, it will not affect the outside world. Gao Wen's copycat version of the Juku Yellow River array currently only uses the space function of the array, but does not activate the killing function. The space of the array can be adjusted. If the range is not the height but only the area, the maximum area can be extended to 30 kilometers away, and the diameter is 60 kilometers. Wanda number 2 came to the formation space, and immediately noticed Gao Wen, whose ability was out of control. Because the opponent's low light area is running wild, this place is like a tentacle monster's lair, full of indescribable creatures. No need to guess, Wanda number 2. You know that those indescribable creatures are all messy creatures formed by Gao Wen's shimmering light on life's DNA. Wanda number 2 also began to grow body parts that did not belong to her. She hurriedly reset her state, and placed origin magic power protection around her body, and adjusted the probability of protection, so that the small probability became a 100% defense against the shimmer of life. This layer of defense fits the skin of Wanda number 2. Let Wanda's body begin to glow too. With protection, the crazy mutation can't work on her. She walked up to Gao Wen and asked him, "Can I try it?" Gao Wen nodded. Wanda number 2 raised her hand, her palm glowing red, and aimed at Gao Wen's chest. Origin magic power activates. She is adjusting the chance of Gao Wen ability getting out of control. At present, the probability of losing control of Gao Wen ability is 99.9999%, but there is still a slight probability of losing control. In this regard, although Gao Wen can control the probability, as the so-called doctor cannot heal himself, Gao Wen cannot get out of trouble in this way. But with Wanda it's different. Under the influence of Wanda's ability, the probability of Gao Wen ability losing control plummeted from 99.9999% to 0.0001%. The shimmering light all over the space of the formation flickered a few times and then went out. Gao Wen is back to normal temporarily. However, Wanda number 2's face suddenly turned pale, because Gao Wen's ability is out of control, so the output of Wanda number 2's ability must also be continuous and cannot be stopped, otherwise everything will be restored as before. Gao Wen supported Wanda and said with concern, "Are you all right?" "It's all right, I just don't get used to ability's continuous output." Wanda shook her head. Gao Wen checked her body and was relieved after confirming that it was all right. Gao Wen was very grateful for the help of Wanda number 2, so he couldn't hold back, and subconsciously regarded her as Wanda number 1 and took her into his arms. Suddenly being hugged by Gao Wen, Wanda number 2 was stunned. But she is not disgusted, on the contrary there is a strong sense of happiness, she likes this feeling very much. But at the same time, she is very self-blame in her heart. She feels that she has changed her mind and is no longer the person she used to be. Otherwise, why would she easily fall in love with Gao Wen, a person who is relatively new to her? This time, after the hug, although the two did not admit it personally, they both acquiesced to the new relationship between the two. Gao Wen lifted the Juku Yellow River array, put away the array, and dragged Wanda number 2 back to the wooden house, ready to do some shameful things. Wanda resisted a little, but Gao Wen was encouraged by her behavior of refusing and welcoming. 100,000 words omitted here. Time flies, and many months have passed. The clone's belly is already very large, and the due date is today. Wanda number 2 nervously stood beside her clone, good enough waiting for her daughter to be born. Compared with his nervousness, Gao Wen is much calmer. The baby in the cloned body is the reincarnation of a certain immortal emperor in the fairy world. He has great luck, and there is an artifact guarding his primordial spirit. How could something go wrong? Speaking of artifacts, we have to talk about the level of magic weapons in this world. The magic weapon grades from low to high are spiritual tools, fairy tools, and divine tools, which correspond to the mortal world, the fairy world and the god world respectively. Generally speaking, in the mortal world, you can only refine spiritual tools, and in the immortal world, you can refine spiritual tools and immortal weapons, but there are exceptions. Some genius refiners can also rely on superb techniques and rare materials. Immortal artifacts are refined in the mortal world, or divine artifacts are refined in the immortal world. The artifact in the Sea of Baby Yuan, the god's telekinesis, should have come like this. That artifact has the effect of automatically protecting the master. Even if the baby is the reincarnation of the immortal emperor, everything except the god's telekinesis must be rebuilt. However, if a fatal threat is encountered, the automatic master protecting mechanism of the artifact will be triggered. Gave birth. A clone of Wanda 2 is about to be born. Gao Wen waved his hand and let the clone slowly evaporate and disappear, leaving the baby in her belly alone. When Wanda number 2 saw the birth of the baby, she was very happy and took her into her arms. "Have you decided what to name her?" Gao Wen asked her. "Alice. Will it be too popular? I think it's very fairy tale." Wanda number 2 hugged the baby and looked very happy. She asked Gao Wen, "If it were you, what name would you give her?" "Helen, Judy, Lena, Kelly, Charlotte, Evelyn." Gao Wen said a whole bunch of names. "Let's call it Alice." Wanda number 2 has difficulty in choosing. The names Gao Wen said are really good, but they are not as pleasant and easy to remember as Alice. Whatever. Time flies, and for the next 10 years, the three of them lived here and lived an ordinary daily life. During this time, in addition to showing affection with Wanda number 2, Gao Wen was basically in retreat, trying to keep his ability from getting out of control. Wanda completely entered the role of mother, doting on Alice extremely. In the blink of an eye, Alice was 16 years old. Alice's bloodline is 3/4 Euro and 1/4 Asia. She is very beautiful, with beautiful flaxen hair, soft facial features and delicate face, like a doll. In terms of appearance, she is no worse than her mother Wanda number 2, and even because of the inheritance of Gao Wen's excellent genes, her appearance has steadily surpassed that of mother. Alice began to practice when she was 9 years old. She practiced the immortal Tao taught by Gao Wen, which is the system of the world of heaven. Now, at the age of 16, Alice has cultivated to the golden elixir realm. Gao Wen also personally refined a set of magic weapons for her, namely Yujing Bottle, Tianvi Ling, Yunshou Nishang, Chenkin Bracelet, and Yuni Shoes. The jade bottle looks similar to that of Sister Guanyin, but the inside is not Sangguang Shenshui, but a small medicine garden in the cave. Inside the medicine garden, a top-quality spiritual vein has been refined, which can not only produce spiritual stones, but can also be used to carry around, farming. The Tianvi ribbon is a ribbon that can be tied around the waist at ordinary times. When needed, it can be turned into a magic weapon for attack and defense. It can be hard or soft, long or short, cut gold and broken jade, and can cover half of the sky when it is unfolded to the limit. Yunshou Nishang is a fairy skirt, which can transform its appearance according to the will of the wearer BFFA. In addition, it can resist attacks to a certain extent, preventing the rogue monks the god's telekinesis from peeping on the wearer's body. The Chenkin bracelet, as the name suggests, connotates the universe, and there is a space inside that can be used for storing things. Yuni shoes and Yunshou Nishang are matching magic weapons. The appearance is a pair of embroidered shoes, but it can change the shape. The function is to improve the wearer's agility and fly. This set of magic weapons, the grades are all at the level of the 9th grade immortal artifact. Originally, Gao Wen's artifact refining skills were not up to the level of refining 9th grade immortal artifacts, but he went to Immortal Realm to collect a lot of immortal refining materials, and also use the ability to modify the probability to change the probability of refining 9th grade immortal artifacts. For 100%, this set of magic weapons for daughters was refined. However, since Alice currently only has the cultivation base of the Golden Core realm, she cannot really exert the power of these magic weapons. Therefore, even if Alice wears a set of top-level fairy weapons, her actual combat power is only at the level of the alchemy cultivator of this world. Alice has never left Gao Wen and Wanda No. 2 since she was born, so people are a little naive and don't know that the people outside are sinister. Gao Wen felt that this was not conducive to her growth, so she decided to let her go out to practice alone. Wanda No. 2 was very opposed. She didn't want her lovely daughter to leave her. Gao Wen took a lot of work to get Wanda No. 2 to agree. Alice has long been curious about the outside world, and her father let her go out to experience, which is what she hoped. So on this day, under the reluctant eyes of Wanda No. 2, Alice left. Snuggling in Gao Wen's arms, Wanda No. 2 looked at her daughter who was walking away and said worriedly, "Will she be in danger?" "It may be hard, but there will be no danger," Gao Wen said with certainty. "Just kidding, let's not talk about the first-grade artifact in Alice's original god. Gao Wen's the god's telekinesis is also covering the entire mortal world all the time. How could Alice be in danger? Even if she is in danger, Gao Wen was also the first to know. Speaking of which, since we came to this world, we have been living in this place and haven't looked elsewhere. Gao Wen, let's travel." Okay. Year. On the day Alice left, Gao Wen and Wanda No. 2 also left the ends of the earth. The pervasive the god's telekinesis covers the world. Chaos's fate is vividly in his heart, the future may be foreseeable, and the fate is in the palm of his hand. While traveling with Wanda No. 2 in the realm of self-cultivation, Gao Wen's the god's telekinesis has been in full swing, in which he is omniscient. He knew everything that happened in the world, everything that was going to happen, and everything that might happen. The variables of chaos are endless, and the things he can see are also endless. To be honest, this is a very brain-burning behavior, but when he put all his energy into it, Gao Wen miraculously found that his uncontrollable ability was gradually being relieved. At this rate, it will take a few years to gain initial control. It has been 3 years since the Gao Wen family left from the ends of the earth. In the past 3 years, Gao Wen and Wanda acted as a pair of young knights, traveling around, occasionally acting as a hero. Alice was not with them. She practiced alone outside, and she had already made a name for herself. Some people called her an exotic witch. This does not seem to be a good title, but in fact it is just the result of malicious propaganda by some monks who have suffered losses under Alice's hands. Alice won't do anything outrageous, she's just a little eccentric. In the mortal world, the Great Xia Dynasty, in the capital, a hotel room, late at night. Wanda No. 2 was already asleep. Gao Wen sat alone on the wooden chair by the window of the guest room, looking out at the bright moon and the starry night sky. On stargazing night, it counts cause and effect, and a meteor slips down. Fingers crossed, fate is obvious, disaster is coming. In Gao Wen's eyes, the light of fate is flickering. He sees the third son of King Ji of the Great Xia dynasty, and the trajectory of fate is deviated. Reborn, Gao Wen muttered to himself. From the fate of chaos in the mortal world, Gao Wen caught a glimpse of a reborn. The other party is Jizan, the third son of the emperor of the Daxia dynasty. In that future destiny trajectory before Jizan was reborn, the Daxia dynasty was cursed by the monks of the enemy country, and all living beings in the country lost the ability to thrive. A few years later, a generation of people died, and the Great Xia dynasty fell, and was captured by the enemy's soldiers without bloodshed. Jizan is the only survivor of the royal family. His talent is outstanding, and his cultivation speed is leaps and bounds. At the age of 600, he broke through to the Golden Core realm of law, and he was only one step away from ascension. He found his former enemy, and although he succeeded in revenge, he was also severely injured by the enemy. The enemy took the initiative to trigger the calamity before he died, and even the calamity with Jizan was triggered. Jizan, who was seriously injured, was helpless in the face of the calamity, and finally died. Maybe it was fate that he felt that he should not die, or maybe it was just a joke that fate made to him. Jizan, who died under the calamity, was reborn 600 years ago with his memories, which is today. In this world of self-cultivation, not only the reincarnation of the fairy goddess of the fairy world, but also a rebirth, these two should be the protagonists of this world. However, one of the protagonists was cut off by himself and became a daughter. The other, although reborn, has a fate like the lone star. Generally, people with this kind of fate will always be involved in various troubles in their life. Even if they are walking on the road on weekdays, they will be inexplicably brought up to find fault. Very protagonist. Gao Wen wasn't interested in the rebirth, or, in other words, something more interesting to him is about to happen. The fate of his daughter Alice is shining, and someone close to Alice is coming. In this world, except for Gao Wen and Wanda, I am afraid that only Alice's previous life in the fairy world is the Master Hongqian immortal emperor who is related to Alice. Gao Wen will know this, and it is also the cause and effect of fate. Gao Wen raised his hand, moved his fate, and changed the place where immortal Emperor Hongqian came. Before long, the stars gathered in the house, and gradually formed a woman wearing a gossip group. The woman looked very young, she had white hair, and her long silver hair was tied into a braid down to her calf. The gossip dress on her body is embellished with sun, moon and stars at the hem. On the fabric of her jacket, tulips, bamboo, red leaves and plum blossoms representing spring, summer, autumn and winter are embroidered. The sleeves of her clothes are very long, covering both arms and hands in them, and the cuffs are printed with the sun and the moon on the left and the right. Overall, it looks very mysterious. Immortal Emperor Hongqian who appeared here had a calm and indifferent expression. She recognized the woman sleeping on the bed, who was the mother of her disciple in this life. She looked at the man in the house again. This should be the father of her disciple in this life, and the one who crossed into the Emperor Tribulation in the immortal realm a few years ago. Wanting to understand this, immortal Emperor Hongqian smiled lightly, with a detached bearing, and said, Ji Yunai Hongqian, I have seen fellow Taoist. My name is Gao Wen, a fellow Taoist from the world came here, what is the matter? My apprentice has insufficient origin, and I was reincarnated and rebuilt. I never thought of chance and coincidence, and I was reincarnated into the Taoist family. You and I are destined. You just fell into the mortal world and fell to the ground to form a relationship. Once I came to you, Bikwan was no longer immortal. The origin and fate are gone, and the fate is gathered and the fate is scattered. Who can say everything between this matter? She is my apprentice, I am her teacher, and the fate has not been broken. You can go to see the little girl, if the fate is broken, don't force it. Gao Wen smiled. Hong Chen frowned, snorted coldly, turned and disappeared into the room. The red dust that left, found Alice in a cultivator's square city that was very far away. As soon as she saw the other party, she was shocked by the top immortal weapon suit on the other party's body. She knew very well that Alice's previous life was not an artifact refiner, and her half-pounded artifact training skills could make a magic weapon. This fairy device must have been given to her by Gao Wen. Who are you? Alice, who was visiting the night market in Fangxi, found a woman with a braided braid staring at her, so she walked over and asked. This seat is called Hongchen Yuan, and it came from the fairy world. It is your master in your previous life. Immortal Emperor Hongchen looked at Alice in this life, and the race of the other party in this life has changed. However, the world is so big, and there are many human races, and Alice is relatively common. The other party was even more beautiful than when he was Bikwan in his previous life, and the immortal Emperor Hongchen liked it very much. It's so bluffing, is it true? Alice was very suspicious. I can unlock the memories of your past life. Don't worry, who knows if you are a bad person. Alice shook her head decisively. In the past few years, she has been tricked by people. If it wasn't for the fairy suit to protect her safety, I'm afraid she would have been caught long ago. She's dead, she is not as innocent as she was when she left her parents. How could she let others do things on her own? How can you believe that I am the master of your previous life? Hongchen Yuan was very helpless. You said that you are from the fairyland, then you must be a fairy. Can you show me the means of a fairy? Yes, Hongchen Yuan agreed. Hongchen Yuan waved his hand, gathered the sun, moon, and stars in his palm, sprinkled it into the sky and the earth, and recited the law, the world in the pot. In the starlight, a teapot emerged. Everything within a radius of 10,000 miles was put into the teapot. The heaven and earth were refined and turned into a small world. Within the range, except for Alice, no one noticed all these changes. Even Alice was only aware of the changes in the world under the guidance of the mortal fate. The world filled with the teapot was refined into a small world in just an instant. If you look at it from the outside, everything in the tens of thousands of miles around has disappeared out of thin air, and even the earth has been dug away, forming an abyss that is thousands of meters deep. The creatures in the world in the pot do not realize that the world they live in has been changed, but in the normal area thousands of miles away, they can feel the ground shaking, and that the gods' telekinesis of many experts in the cultivation world has spread. To this side, I saw that the place that was supposed to be green mountains and green waters has turned into an empty abyss. All those who discovered all of this were stunned. Alice stared at this scene dumbfounded. It was hard for her to imagine that the woman in front of her who claimed to be a master in her previous life could actually refine nearly 1,000th of a cultivation world with a wave of her hand. It was simply unimaginable. Hongchen Yuan can wave her hand to refine half a mortal world, which is normal, because she is an immortal emperor. Even in the immortal realm, her strength can be ranked in the top 10. The world in the pot of her hand is actually holding back her strength. If she wants to do everything she can, she may be able to refine the entire cultivation world in an instant. Immortal Emperor Hongchen is good at cause and effect, and all fruits have their causes. The heaven and earth in the pot seem to have magical powers of heaven and earth, but they are actually magical powers of cause and effect. By changing the results, the world can fill in the reasons and create the power of miracles. It seems that she is refining the world, but in fact, the world has actively refined itself, and it has become her thing. You are really a fairy, Alice said naively. She has already realized that the person in front of her should have no ill will towards her, otherwise, if she wants to do something to her, she has no ability to resist. 323. You are my disciple, and you were also an immortal in your previous life. Hongchen Yuan explained patiently. While explaining, she released her supernatural powers and returned this piece of heaven and earth that had been put into the pot to the realm of self-cultivation. You want to take me back to the fairyland? That's right. Just when Alice was tangled, there was a swoosh beside the two of them, and Gao Wen and Wanda number 2 came together. As soon as the two came here, Wanda ran to Alice's side, guarding Alice behind her, and guarding against the mortal fate. She is my daughter, I will not give her to anyone. Wanda number 2 glared at the world. She will still be your daughter, the result will not change, I just accept her as a disciple and take her to the fairyland. Hongchen is helpless. If Alice's parents are only mortals, she will not have to worry about it. Just wait, in hundreds of years, his parents will die, but unfortunately not. Gao Wen, like her, is also an immortal emperor. Alice's mother doesn't look like an extraordinary person. From her point of view, the other party can live for a long, long time. She belongs to the kind of person who can live forever without any accident. She is not like a monk, but she can live forever. Curious, but that's clearly not the focus right now. I don't want Alice to regain her past life memory, so you can't take her away. Wanda number 2 was very worried, afraid that once her daughter regained her past life memory, she would no longer be her own daughter. Seeing that Wanda number 2 was protecting Alice like a child, Hong Chenyuan was a little unsure of what to do. Do you want to snatch your disciples from their parents? This apprentice is too overbearing. What is this called? Her gaze swept across the Gao Wen family and thought of a solution. Everyone, I am alone in the immortal world. I don't think you have much power here. It is better that we make friends with each other in advance and retreat together in the future. After all, there is a God world above the immortal world. Take care. She is about to make friends with Gao Wen and Wanda No. 2. If she can become her own, they probably won't mind taking their daughter as their apprentice. Gao Wen did not reject Hong Chenyuan's proposal, and decided to take his family to visit the site of Hong Chenyuan in Shanji. In the fairyland, Hong Chenyuan is indeed a lonely person. She is not interested in the management of sects and forces, and lives alone in the Chenyuan Mountain in the southern cloud state of the fairyland. Chenyuan Mountain was named after the Emperor Hongchen. Under the terrestrial veins here, there are dozens of top-quality immortal spirit veins, so that the immortal spirit here is rich, and the clouds and mists are full of immortal style. This mountain is covered by the immortal formation called stars and 8 trigrams. This formation was created and laid out by the fate of the red dust hundreds of thousands of years ago. After these hundreds of thousands of years of improvement and upgrade, it now has enough to block the attack of the immortal emperor, strong protection. This formation is open all the year round. If you want to break through this formation, at least 10 immortal emperors must join forces to attack with all their strength. On the top of Chenyuan Mountain, there is a chic and elegant stargazing platform. Next to the stargazing platform, there is an antique courtyard, where Hong Chenyuan lives on weekdays. In the past, immortal Emperor Bikwan and Hongchen Fate lived together here, until after immortal Bikwan was reincarnated, there was only Hongchen Fate left here. Gao Wen and his party came here as guests. Here, Gao Wen discovered many magical flowers, as well as many spiritual plants that are treasured elixir even in the fairy world. From these spiritual plants, it is not difficult to guess that besides being a master of karma, Hong Chenyuan is also an alchemist. Wow, this is the fairyland, it's so beautiful. Alice was so excited when she first arrived here. Even Wanda number 2 was amazed at the great mountains and rivers here. Hong Chenyuan pointed to another courtyard not far away, smiled at Alice and said, "In a previous life, when you were still Bikwan, you lived here with me. Before that, you and I were both mortals. At that time, I was an elder in a sect, and you were a mortal who came to worship the mountain to ask for the Tao. At that time, I accepted you as a disciple, until after the sect was destroyed by the demon sect, you and I were wandering everywhere, and after we ascended, we would never leave, progress together, and eventually both become the immortal emperor." She tells Alice about the past. Alice listened carefully. Gao Wen and Wanda were also very interested in the story told by Hong Chenyuan and listened to her narration. It's just that, I don't know if it's Gao Wen's illusion. She always feels that the relationship between Hongchen and her daughter's past life is delicate. They may not be pure master and apprentice, maybe they should be more intimate. At the same time as the story is told by the fate of Hongchen, with the supreme magic power, he used his supernatural power to temporarily transform the 2 flowers in the flower bed in the yard into 2 cute little girls in flower dresses. They brought them to everyone. Shancha Xiangguo reception. After the reception, the 2 little girls with flowers ran back to the previous flower bed, turned back into flowers, and planted themselves back. It's amazing. Even the immortal emperor of the same realm, the longer he lives, the more ability he can master. Whether it is the previous world in the pot or the current spirit transformation, even in Gao Wen's eyes, they are all extremely exquisite supernatural powers. At the same time, this also made Gao Wen realize that perhaps his current cultivation level is comparable to that of the immortal emperor in this world, but he is much inferior in terms of means. He faintly made a decision in his heart. For a period of time after that, he should continue to do his old job, act as a magic lender, and lend his ability. Well, maybe the immortal power of immortals can also be loaned out, directly, loaning mortals to become immortals, and letting them help them develop new supernatural powers and spells. Gao Wen himself can also collect some unique knowledge in the fairy world, such as magical powers, spells, alchemy, utensils, formations, runes and the like. There are never too many of these things that can enhance oneself. This move by Hong Chen Yuan also surprised Wanda number 2. Speaking of which, since she came to this world with Gao Wen, she has heard a lot of things about this place, such as the cultivation system, which made her know that people with supernatural powers abound in this world. When she lived in the world of comprehension before, Wanda number 2 basically did not contact the outside world, so this feeling was not strong. Later, in the 3 years she traveled with Gao Wen, she really saw the many talents in this world. Scholar. The means of mortal fate, the unconscious is extremely clever. Wanda number 2 guessed that this mortal fate is probably a strong man comparable to Thanos wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. She began to consider whether she wanted to change her career as a cultivator. It's just that she heard Gao Wen say that if this system wants to achieve anything, it will take hundreds or even thousands of years at least. She has consulted Gao Wen's opinion, and the advice she got is, don't change jobs first, and find a way to improve your physique, so that you can better withstand origin magic power. As long as you refine the big ghost Sichorn in Chaos's original magic power in her body once she is transformed, her strength will immediately soar to a level close to the multi-dimensional 15th level universe. Gao Wen doesn't know how strong the multi-universe level is, but it should not be weaker than the Jinxian realm in the world of heaven, and it will only be stronger. Wanda number 2 decided to follow Gao Wen's advice. Time flies. Years later. There is a medicine garden in the back mountain of Shanji Chenyuan Mountain. Next to the medicine garden, there is a stone platform. Gao Wen sat cross-legged on the stone platform. Because at the moment Wanda number 2 is not by his side, he needs to use all his strength to not let his ability get out of control. Fortunately, over the past few years, he has been able to barely control ability without losing control. He closed his eyes, and the thoughts of his mind spread out from the plane of self-cultivation through his pocket space, and then spread to the plane of DC, connecting to the main God space he placed in the void over there. Although Gao Wen has been in the comprehension world for a long time, due to the difference in time between different planes, only 10 days have passed in the DC world. Gao Wen controls the main God space and cancels John Constantine's reincarnation identity, leaving only Harley Quinn. In your own main God space, it is good to only accommodate girls, and the big men should stand aside. Your own mood is the most important. Gao Wen has always been more interested in Harley Quinn's ability, even if the opponent's ability is neither destructive nor lethal, but absolutely no one can match the mystery in terms of mystery, which can be called an accident of fate. To say that Gao Wen is not curious about the specific principle, it is absolutely false. Not long after, a white light flashed in front of Gao Wen, and the main God space in the form of a light ball was summoned to him. This ball of light is not big, only the file size of the fist, and contains the space of the main God. Harley Quinn at the moment is in it. It's just that the personality of the other party at the moment is not Harley, but a psychiatrist Harleen Quinzel, so she doesn't look crazy, she is very rational, and she is a beautiful temperament with a hot body. Speaking of which, Harleen Quinzel also worked as a gymnast and won a championship in college, which made her body extremely flexible and kept her figure quite perfect. At the moment, Harleen Quinzel was standing under the central sphere of light in the main God square, closed his eyes to connect with the main God, and browsed the main God mall. Although he and Harley Quinzel are different personalities of the same person, Harleen Quinzel also has what he wants. There is everything in the main God mall, only she can't think of it, and you can't find it here. Browsing the main God mall is like browsing an online shopping mall, at least it has a similar feeling. Outside, Gao Wen reached out and grabbed the main God space floating in front of him. He was thinking about what to do next. Is it to follow the previous routine and imagine a plot world, or use another method? In the immortal realm, there are too many strong people. If you imagine a world, you will inevitably attract attention and be disturbed by others. Rather than doing that, it is better to refine a cave world, integrate it into the main God space, and make it the reincarnation world of the main God space. The refining method of the cave world Gao Wen has, but he does not have the relevant refining materials, and the refining efficiency is not high. But if you use origin magic power, you can omit all the steps, increase the success rate to 100%, and get the finished product directly. Do it when you think of it. The main god space in his hand began to upgrade, this sphere like a crystal ball. In addition to the main god space, a new, empty and vast space gradually appeared inside. At the same time as the new space was formed, Gao Wen's will descended into it, and the vast and empty space gradually turned into a fixed star system, or a solar system, including fixed stars, planets, and satellites. The total diameter of this space is 1 light-year, and it is a spherical space. The boundary of the space is a dark sky with luminous stars dotted on it. But to put it bluntly, this is a layer of texture. From a distance, the stars shine. Once you get close, you will find out how much it violates. This cottage is the third planet of the solar system, with green mountains and green waters gradually emerging on it, various countries, cities, various animals and plants, and finally, billions of people have appeared, which perfectly restores the Earth's 21st century. Look. There is no story unfolding here, and all the fates develop according to the circumstances. Just when you need it, you can add plots and characters to it at any time, or add new areas, or modify the existing areas. This is the reincarnation world of the main god space in the future. It seems to be just a world, but it can be changed at any time, which will give the reincarnator an illusion of performing tasks in different reincarnation worlds. Just when Gao Wen was tinkering with the main god space, Wanda No. 2 and her daughter Alice came to the star observation platform of Chenyuan Mountain. There is an entrance to the secret realm in the observatory. This secret realm is called the Secret Realm of Stars, and it was created 30,000 years ago by Hongchen Yuanzhang and immortal Emperor Bikwan. Inside the secret realm is a cave world that is bigger than the mortal world of the cultivation world. Since the beginning of the creation of the secret realm, it has been integrated into the third underground floor of the observatory, and you can walk in by pushing the door. The internal environment of the secret realm is extremely harsh. Some areas have no gravity. Some areas have excessive gravity, some areas will be swept by spatial turbulence, some areas will be raging with flames, and some areas will have temperatures close to absolute zero. All in all, this place is a place with extremely harsh environment. Except for the cultivators, normal people would never want to enter. Before, Wanda No. 2 and Alice had obtained a body training method from Hongchen Yuan, and now the two of them are going to enter the secret realm of stars to practice body training. In the system of self-cultivation, those who refine the body are generally called body cultivators. Different from normal cultivators, physical cultivation does not require much spiritual root aptitude, but it is difficult and painful to cultivate, and it needs to be assisted in cultivation in a specific environment, otherwise it will be difficult to achieve anything. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.